Chapter 1362. In the blink of an eye, many of the traders and cultivators from the below sea world were pierced through by the dragon scales. Not a single one escaped, and all of them died a violent death. Many dragon scales flew into the air and embedded themselves into the true dragon patriarch's body. After that, his figure shrank, and he once again returned to the appearance of a stooped old servant in a green robe. He stood behind Jiang Tian, as if the tragic deaths of over 100 cultivators had nothing to do with him. Xie Yan hurriedly flew up and bowed respectfully. "Young master, patriarch, please enter the secret room for a chat." The situation was very complicated now. The Jade Lake Ocean Wave World and the Dragon Gate Resistance Army had planted spies in each other's camps. The return of the true Dragon Patriarch to the Dragon Gate world was a big deal. Once the news spread, the earth would shake and the mountains would shake. The cultivators of the Jade Lake Ocean Wave World and the Dragon Gate rebels would fight back crazily. Just say it. No one can hear or see it. Jiang Tian raised his hand and waved, activating the forbidden region. A white mist spread out, enveloping the few of them and forming a barrier, immediately blocking out all images and sounds. Xie Tingran and the people in the residence couldn't sense what was happening in the white mist barrier. Is this a forbidden realm or an array? But it's too magical and amazing. This person is so young, but he has such a powerful cultivation. Where did he come from? Xie Yan was shocked and couldn't believe it. But there was no time to think. Xie Yan immediately knelt on the ground and said with tears in his eyes, "This sinner welcomes the return of the true Dragon Patriarch." "Xie Yan, get up. Speak slowly." The true Dragon Patriarch raised his hand and said after killing many traitors. However, Xie Yan did not get up. His face was filled with shame. He buried his head on the ground, trembled and wailed. "This sinner is useless. I watched the disciples of the Ao family being killed, the true dragon sect being destroyed, and the people of this world dying. Patriarch, please give me death." The true Dragon Patriarch's eyes flashed with a trace of regret, then he asked in a deep voice, "Where's that child, Xietinghai?" "Half a month ago, my son argued with the giant Shark King during the court assembly, calling him a traitor. He was killed by Sha Shou in a fit of rage. The giant Shark King is now the king of this world." Xie Yan's eyes were filled with tears as his body trembled as he complained. "Hey, brother Xie Yan, get up. Tenghai died for the real Dragon Dynasty, and you were severely injured. How can I blame you? If you want to talk about crimes, I'm the one who's guilty. If I had guarded this world, Hailan Realm and the Jade Lake Realm wouldn't have been able to kill so many people and commit so many evil deeds." Tears flickered in the eyes of the true Dragon Patriarch. He looked up at the sky and sighed. Then he helped Xie Yan up. After that, Xie Yan calmed himself down and bowed before Jiang Tian, explaining the situation to him. The current situation in the Dragon Gate world was not much different from what they had found in the Kanglan realm. At present, the true dragon sect and the Ao family's dynasty had been destroyed by the cultivators of Jade Lake and Hailan. Many of their disciples had either been killed or captured. Although some had escaped during the chaos, they were homeless and had lost contact with them. However, the cultivation of the swordsman Fuhai and the giant Shark King was different from what they had heard before. With the help of Jade Lake and Hailan, their cultivation had increased greatly and they had reached the early stage nascent soul realm in just a few years. The Jade Lake special envoy turned out to be Chen Bahuang, Chen Liuhe's brother and the new crown prince of the Jade Lake realm. He had just come out of seclusion and was very powerful, with many masters helping him secretly. "Master, what should we do now?" Although the true dragon was sad and eager for revenge, it still respectfully asked Jiang Tiandao for instructions. Jiang Tian sat lazily on the roof. He wore a long robe and looked carefree. He took a sip of the Thunderfire wine and muttered to himself for a moment. "Kill the giant Shark King, Sha Shouzhua, the swordsman Fuhai Sun Bojun and the special envoy of Jade Lake, Chen Bahuang of course. Once the main evils are eliminated, the rest are easy to deal with. But where are the three of them now?" "Young master, it's difficult. Xianxia is very cunning and they don't have a fixed place to stay. It's hard to find them. Xie Yan knew that Jiang Tian had a special identity and was even the master of ancestral patriarch True Dragon, so he bowed respectfully and said, "What?" Jiang Tian looked calm, as if he wasn't surprised. But ancestral patriarch True Dragon was already frightened and shouted with a frown. Once a nascent soul overlord decided to hide, it was almost impossible to find them. It was very troublesome to find them with powerful Qi concealment arts or Dharma treasures. But they could command in the dark or attack your family and friends. That would be very troublesome. Young Master, Ancestral Patriarch, although the giant shark king, Xianxia, has been the king for a few years, this world isn't stable. Loyal people often appear to assassinate the three of them. If they can't kill them, they kill their disciples and family. Xie Yan hurriedly said. 7 days ago, Xianxia was enjoying the flowers on White Waterfall Island when he was assassinated by the Grand Tutor of the Dragon Gate world, Inluan Dharmaraja. Although Inluan Dharmaraja wasn't his match and his dantian was shattered, he still killed a few of Xianxia's beauties and one of his disciples. There are many similar assassinations. So, in order to avoid the assassination, Xianxia and the others are very low-key and secretive. They only command in the dark and give orders from behind the scenes. Countless people with lofty ideals hate him so much that their teeth itch, but they can't do anything about it. Inluan Dharmaraja is also dead? Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon was sad and angry, but there was nothing he could do in front of the three cunning people. He could only look at Jiang Tian and ask, "Master, the enemy is cunning and doesn't come out. What can we do?" Simple. Jiang Tian looked at Long Yanan indifferently and said leisurely, "The little princess of the Dragon Gate world is in our hands. Are you afraid that they won't come out? Let's find a spacious place and strip this woman clean. Any man can get close to her. I don't believe that Sun Bojun and the other bastards won't come out to rescue her." "What? She's the little princess of the Dragon Gate world?" Xie Yan looked at Long Yanan, who was dressed like a maid behind Jiang Tian, and said in disbelief. Ever since the war with Hai Lan and Jade Lake, the Dragon Gate world had suffered repeated defeats and suffered heavy losses. The cultivators of Hai Lan were extremely powerful and specialized in restraining the Dragon Clan and the Demon Clan. They were invincible and swept away all obstacles. The Dragon Gate world was the most powerful Heavenly Lord sect among the many imperishable sects in Hai Lan. It was called the Heavenly Sect. This was the Nine Dragons Emperor technique. When used, one could control the Nine Dragons Dharma idol. It was extremely powerful and unpredictable. Relying on this technique, the Dragon sect suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 earths, sweeping through all directions. They looked down on the entire below sea world for tens of thousands of years, and billions of people prostrated themselves in worship. But this maid before him was actually the little princess of the nightmare dragon lineage of the Halon world. Clearly, she had been captured by this young master and reduced to a prisoner. Where did this young master come from? He's so powerful. In a blink, Xie Yan couldn't help but look at Jiang Tian as if he had seen a ghost. He was also curious about Jiang Tian's background. When Long Yanan heard this, she was so scared that her face turned bitter and she almost cried. She felt chills all over her body and she couldn't help but tremble. He only felt that the current Jiang Tian was inhumane, like a demon. "Master, that's a great plan." Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon clapped and laughed. "Why did Sun Bojun come out to rescue her after we took off her clothes? I think we should kill her. I'll put a spicy hot pot next to her and eat it. It's more exciting that way." Black's saliva flowed. "Idiot. If we want to eat her, we have to take off her clothes first," Jiang Tian said with a smile. At this time, a figure appeared like a ghost. It was Bai Zhe, who had broken through the Forbidden Zone barrier and flew over. He landed behind Jiang Tian, bowed and reported, "My lord, it's still not enough. We still need to make a lot of preparations before that." "What's the problem?" Jiang Tian asked. "I heard a news in the city. Dragon girl Ao Jiao has been captured," Bai Zhe said. True Dragon was surprised and worried. he said with a trembling voice. That's Aobo's daughter. My granddaughter. She's still alive. She's still alive. But the situation is not good. Bai Zhe frowned and said, Ao Jiao and more than 10 descendants of the Ao family have been captured. Sun Bojun plans to hold an auction on the 18 island in a month's time, and sell them off as cultivation vessels or slaves. What a vicious Sun Bojun. Ao Feng, the true dragon ancestral patriarch, said through gritted teeth. His eyes turned red and he almost spat out blood. Female cultivators who were sold as slaves would be humiliated and abused. Their essence blood and essence qi would be gradually extracted by their masters and used as nourishment for the latter's cultivation. In the end, their essence blood and essence qi would dry up and they would become like mummies. They might even go insane and become ghosts. It was a fate worse than death. So, we should save Ao Jiao and the other descendants of the Ao family first, then use Long Yanan as our trump card. Otherwise, the hostages are still in their hands. First, we have to be careful. Second, they also have a bargaining chip to exchange the hostages. We might not be able to force them out. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed. He took a sip of the Thunderfire wine and asked, Now, where are the hostages? That's top secret. I didn't find out either. Bai Zhe shook his head. At this time, ancestral patriarch Takong also flew over like a ghost. He cupped his fists and said, Master, this old man has received news that the teleportation array between Yaoqi and Hailan to Dragon Gate territory has been opened several times recently. A large number of nascent soul overlords may have arrived. The trap. It's another trap. Jiang Tian closed the folding fan in his right hand and slapped it against his left palm, making a crisp sound. He smiled leisurely and said, Combining these two pieces of news together with the fact that the teleportation arrays from the Heavenly Star Realm, Kanglin Realm, and Chia Realm to the Jade Lake world were deliberately closed, we can infer that they deliberately lured us to the Dragon Gate world and held this auction with great fanfare. They also wanted to lure us out and kill the cultivators guarding the Dragon Gate. If I'm not mistaken, a large number of cultivators from Yaoqi and Hailan should have arrived at Dragon Gate territory through the teleportation array and gathered at the auction site. This is a gathering of the winds and clouds. Chapter 1363. Master, you're really smart. Then, ancestral patriarch Acheron also appeared and whispered. After I received the news, I went to the 18 island to take a look. A large number of golden core cultivators were secretly mobilized and flew over. There were more than 100 of them. There are even a dozen nascent soul cultivators, but that's not all. What should we do? Hearing this, Xie Yan was shocked. His expression changed drastically as he looked helplessly at Jiang Tian. There were so many nascent soul heavenly lords and 100 golden core perfected cultivators. Once they attacked, they could turn half of the Dragon Gate upside down. It was a deadly trap. But if they didn't go, Sun Bojun would torture and humiliate the disciples of the Ao family. It wasn't as simple as humiliating the Ao family. He would be riding on the heads of the loyal cultivators of the Dragon Gate and completely destroying their morale. Moreover, once the news spread out, it would definitely attract a large number of loyal and brave cultivators like Silver Wheel Fawang from the Dragon Gate to rescue them. This was equivalent to sticking out one's head for others to chop off. The losses would be disastrous. But if they really went to the rescue, their chances of winning would be very low and they might even be wiped out. It's okay. Just kill them. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing his snow-white fist, and said calmly, That's right. What tricks are you talking about? They're all trash in front of absolute power. No matter how many tricks they have, I'll destroy them with one punch. What? You still want to go to the rescue? Ancestral Patriarch, that's too risky. Xie Yan almost fell to the ground after hearing that. He then looked at Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon in fear, hoping that he would persuade him. There were only a handful of nascent soul cultivators and 100 golden core cultivators. With such a luxurious lineup, it could be said to be an inescapable net. Even if you were extremely capable, once you entered, you would only have one life left. Even if the true dragon patriarch was a nascent soul realm cultivator, he would not be able to handle it. After all, the true dragon patriarch was only at the first level of the nascent soul realm. He was loyal and devoted to the Ao family. Of course, he wanted to rescue the bloodline of the Ao family. However, there was a huge disparity in strength between him and the enemy. He thought that he shouldn't act rashly and confront the enemy head-on. Instead, he should find out where the Ao family's descendants were imprisoned and attack them when they least expected it. However, the true dragon patriarch did not try to persuade Jiang Tian. Instead, he bowed deeply and said gratefully, "Thank you for your help, my lord. I will never forget your kindness. This time, we must kill the traitors of the Dragon Gate and the cultivators of the Jade Lake and High Lawn. Old ancestor, may I know what young master's cultivation is?" Xie Yan was extremely anxious. He quickly bowed and asked. "It can be considered a Jinden," Jiang Tian said calmly. Xie Yan was stunned. This young master was only a golden core realm cultivator. Why did the true dragon ancestor recognize him as his master? What was his background? Young master, even if you have a powerful background, in the end, strength and fists are the most important thing on the battlefield. You're just a golden core realm cultivator. If you go in recklessly, you'll only die. Xie Yan said earnestly. Originally, this kind of competition between dimensional worlds was too high-end, and Xie Yan had no right to interrupt at all. However, the situation was very bad right now. Jiang Tian and the others were walking right into the trap. Xie Yan was too worried and couldn't help but frown and try to persuade him again. What's so great about a few nascent soul realm cultivators? I can kill them with a wave of my hand. Jiang Tian took a sip of the Thunderfire wine and snickered. Don't worry. Xie Yan, my lord's power is beyond your imagination. The true dragon patriarch comforted him. Xie Yan heaved a sigh and didn't try to persuade him again. He was loyal to the true dragon patriarch and would follow him to the end no matter what decision he made. Jiang Tian scattered the white fog barrier and landed in the courtyard. He raised his hand, and flames surged out, burning the many broken weapons, broken swords, and messy corpses to ashes. When the sea breeze blew, they immediately disappeared without a trace. Young master and ancestral patriarch, thank you for saving our lives. We will never forget your kindness. Xie Tingran came with many family members, guards and soldiers and bowed to Jiang Tian and ancestral patriarch True Dragon. Don't mention it. Jiang Tian nodded and then flicked his finger. Many black soul-swallowing immortal wills were released and deleted the memories of Xie Tingran and the others. Seeing the black tentacles dancing in the air, Xie Tingran and the others rolled their eyes and suddenly fainted. Xie Yan was startled and asked anxiously, "Senior, this is... be careful." Jiang Tian waved his fan and said, "Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon is back today. Today, the True Dragon ancestor has returned. Although no one has called out his name from the beginning to the end, it is very likely that some people have guessed it. So, I deleted all their memories of tonight. Don't worry, it won't harm their immortal wills. Some of them are just ordinary people. There will be a lot of life and death battles in the future, so there's no need to bring them along. It's better to send them away." Another series of arrangements. Young master, this is a good move. I understand. No one will know the identity of ancestral patriarch and you from now on. Xie Yan bowed and said. At this moment he was even more suspicious. This young master's attitude was domineering like a god, but he was meticulous and meticulous. It was really strange. Wake up. Jiang Tian snapped his fingers. With a light crack, Xie Tingran and the others woke up. Xie Tingran looked around blankly. Her gaze swept past Jiang Tian and the True Dragon Patriarch, but she didn't stop for long. Then, she hurriedly walked in front of Xie Yan and whispered, "Patriarch, we can't stay here any longer." Even though her memories of tonight had been deleted, her subconscious was still there. She had almost died just now and her heart was filled with fear. "I know." Xie Yan nodded and quickly dismissed the servants, and guards. Those guards were only at Qi Refinement and Half-Step Foundation Establishment, and there were only a dozen of them. Facing Golden Core and Nascent Soul enemies, it would be difficult for them to protect themselves. With Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon, there was no need to bring them along. After everyone dispersed, Xie Tingran looked at Jiang Tian and said, "Who are they? Why are you bringing them along?" Xie Yen sighed in his heart. Jiang Tian's immortal wills were really magical. It seemed that her memories had been completely deleted. He immediately followed Jiang Tian's arrangement and said lightly, "This is young Master Jiang, and this is his follower, Feng Ao. They came from the Class 4 Kanglin world to seek refuge in this world." This Feng Ao was, of course, an alias. It was a homonym of Ao Feng. The identity of Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon could not be revealed easily. Kanglin world, is it appropriate to bring them along? This world is vast, let them fend for themselves. Before Xie Yen finished, Xie Tingran was disappointed. She looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and said with her immortal wills, "Kanglin world was a low-level world near the desolate solar system. It was like a remote village without many overlords, and golden core cultivators were rare. This young Master Jiang looked ordinary. His clothes were luxurious and shiny, but they were all ordinary clothes. His energy was dirty, and he didn't have the temperament of an overlord. He was probably only at Qi Refinement and Foundation Establishment. She had thought that some overlord had come to help, but now it seemed that they were just two burdens. How unlucky." Xie Yen was startled. He couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's background, but he didn't dare to disrespect the True Dragon. He quickly said, "Tingran, be careful with your words. These two are close to me. They have to come with us no matter what." Just as Xie Yen was about to persuade him again, a group of cultivators in dragon-scale armor suddenly rushed over on dragon horses like a whirlwind. They occupied various strategic locations in the City Lord Mansion and stood with their hands on their swords. They were all at the Foundation Establishment level or even stronger. "Who are you?" "General Shao is here in person. He has suppressed thousands of races. If you don't want to die, kneel and surrender." The cultivators scolded Jiang Tian and the others before opening up a path. It was as though they were waiting for some big shot to arrive. So, a handsome man in a black-colored iron armor of ice, a saber with dragon patterns hanging from his waist, and a blood-red cloak walked over with large strides. He emanated a ghastly killing intent and an extraordinary bearing, and he gave others the feeling of being cold like a mountain and filled with arrogance that shot into the sky. "Brother Shao, you're finally here." Seeing him, Xie Tingran's eyes lit up and a look of deep admiration appeared on her face. She quickly went to greet him as if she had seen a real god. "What, General Shao? How dare you disrespect my master? Do you want to die?" Jiang Tian's expression did not change as he watched coldly. However, Bai Zai's face was filled with anger as he leaped out from the dark and shouted loudly, "Bastard! What did you say? How dare you disrespect General Shao? Do you want to die?" The cultivators in dragon-scale armor shouted and pulled out their swords. A cold light flashed and the bright sword light illuminated the entire courtyard. "Pumph! You're so arrogant." Xiao Bing's eyes narrowed and a sharp light surged. He let out a cold snort and a murderous aura overflowed from his body. His true essence erupted like a torrential river and pushed towards Bai Zai. Chapter 1364. Seeing that both sides were at loggerheads, Xie Yen hurriedly stepped forward and stopped both sides. "Everyone, please don't fight. Young Master Jiang, this is Xiao Bing, the former top general of Ao Bo country. General Shao, these two are cultivators from the Below world. I owe them a debt of gratitude. We are a family." Xiao Bing came from a noble family in the Zhenlong dynasty. His ancestors were all ministers, dukes, generals and generals of the army. Moreover, he was a talented cultivator. He had reached the Golden Core realm before he was 100 years old. Now, he was in the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Before, when the True Dragon dynasty was still in existence, he was highly valued by Ao Bo. He occupied the capital of the dynasty, Dragon Capital, and was responsible for investigating evil cultivators who committed crimes and protecting the safety of tens of millions of creatures. He was directly responsible to Ao Bo, just like the Nine Gates commander in ancient times. He was quite famous in this world. After Ao Bo's death, he led the remaining troops of the True Dragon sect and the True Dragon dynasty to protect Ao Bo. They fought against Sun Bojun, the giant shark king, and the cultivators of Jade Lake and Billow World. They were known as the First Army of the Dragon Protecting Army. So you are from the Billow World? Xiaobing showed a look of disdain. He ignored Jiang Tian and the others. Then his murderous aura dissipated. He bowed to Xie Yan and said sincerely, Senior Xie, Sister Tingran, I received news that Sha Qianqiu led a large group of cultivators to threaten you, so I came to help. How are you? Senior, are you hurt? They did come, but I don't know why, but they left. Xie Yan said vaguely. He didn't tell the whole truth, nor did he mention the identity of the True Dragon Patriarch. Sai, they left. Otherwise, Sha Qianqiu would be dead if he fell into my hands. Xiaobing glanced at the ruins around him. He didn't take it to heart and smiled disdainfully. The next moment his face turned serious. He bowed and said seriously, However, Senior, I've already told you that you can just resign and stay out of this. Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King, those two dogs, will never agree to it. You are an old official of two dynasties. You have great prestige and are the most representative. Only if you also submit, will he have the power to rally and lead a large number of wavering old officials to submit as well. Only then will he be able to control the others. Indeed. Xie Yan looked deeply ashamed. He shook his head and sighed. I've underestimated Giant Shark King Sun Bojun's ruthlessness. Senior, this was not a good place to stay. With the Giant Shark King's vengeful personality, how could he not take bloody revenge? He would definitely come back. Hurry up and come with me to the dragon race's main camp. Xiaobing said sincerely. If the True Dragon Patriarch hadn't returned, Xie Yan would have agreed without hesitation. However, he didn't dare to make a decision for Jiang Tian and the True Dragon Patriarch. Instead, he stepped forward and asked, Senior, what do you think? Why are you asking about these two? Seeing this, Xiaobing became even more suspicious. The True Dragon Patriarch was dressed plainly. His eyes were cloudy and he looked old as if he was about to die. His aura was not very strong. He looked like a mere foundation establishment cultivator. As for Jiang Tian, although his clothes were luxurious, there was no light from any magical treasure. He only had the light of ordinary treasures. They were dim and mottled. They were like a silver spearhead. They looked good but were useless. At first glance, one could tell that they had no background. They belonged to the fringe of the secular world. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded and agreed readily. Jiang Tian was not someone who was arrogant and looked down on others. In fact, the higher Jiang Tian's cultivation base was, the more sympathy he had for the mortal Chen Zi, and the more respect he had for him. Only by remembering that he had risen from the ashes could he maintain a normal state of mind after reaching the peak. Therefore, he could sit and debate with the peerless heavenly venerables and talk to the connate cultivators as equals. Those who were arrogant once their cultivation was high and thought that they were above all living things would not be able to reach the end. Moreover, this kind of normal state of mind was especially important in the nascent soul stage and the soul formation stage. Many cultivators thought that when the nascent soul stage was strong enough to connect with the heavens and earth, they would reach the soul formation stage. In fact, this was not the case. In the cultivation world, there was a secret that if one wanted to reach the soul formation stage, he must first become immortal. The Tao of heaven was to take away what was surplus and make up for what was lacking. The Tao of man was different. The Tao of man was to take away what was lacking and provide what was surplus. In the end, the Tao of cultivation was the Tao of man. The Tao of man, ants and weeds fought against the Tao of heaven, fighting for fate and fortune. And if one wanted to reach the Tao, he must remember that he came from the weak. He must have a heart that sympathized with the mortal world and loved the weak. Before reaching the soul formation stage, this small realm of the mortal world was very important. This realm was very special. It was not a realm of cultivation, but a state of mind, a state of mind. It was like wedging an anchor that connected the cultivator to his world. It was like a kite with a broken string. No matter how high it flew, it would still be tied down. It would still remember that it was a human, that it was in the mortal world under the blue sky. It would not completely drift away and eventually fall into the demonic path. Jiang Tian had seen too many cultivators in his previous life who went straight to the soul formation stage without experiencing the state of mind. Because of their unstable Dao heart, they were implanted with inner demons and had no chance to fight for the Dao. In addition, Jiang Tian's operation this time was very ambitious. His basic goal was to defeat the Jade Pool, Hailan, and other second-level worlds, take back the Dragon Gate, Baiming, and other third-level worlds, and form a strong fortress to defend Earth and cut off the attack route of the ruins of immortality. His highest goal was to enter the ruins of immortality and behead the ruins' emperor, intimidate the twin stars of the South Gate, and prevent future troubles. No matter which goal it was, after achieving it, he needed a group of loyal people who could fight and kill to help Jiang Tian suppress the occupied areas. It was just like how he found Ding Lai, Bai Zhe, and the 4 old monsters. Jiang Tian needed to get in touch with more people to screen and choose the right people. Otherwise, if Jiang Tian just left and flew to the central galaxy and took down these worlds, there would be no reliable people guarding them. The forces of the ruins of immortality would still rise from the ashes and pose a great threat to Earth. Everyone, come with me immediately. Only the most important Dharma treasures and Dharma artifacts. Don't bring ordinary treasures, Xiaobing said quickly. Everyone was about to leave. Just as they were about to leave, Jiang Tian suddenly looked at Takong and old monster Mingi, who were hiding in the dark, and said with his immortal will, "Go to the Baiming and Penglai worlds and have a look." "But master, the Jade Pool and Hailan worlds have set up a terrible trap." Takong and Mingi frowned and said with their immortal will, hesitantly. Now that the Dragon Gate had fallen, the Ao family of the true dragon was in such a miserable state. It was impossible for them not to worry about the Takong Mountain, the Netherworld sect, and their own worlds. However, they were too loyal to Jiang Tian and didn't want Jiang Tian to take risks alone. They wanted to fight side by side with Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was their hope to defeat the enemy and restore glory. They couldn't let anything happen to him. The Jade Pool and the Hailan worlds are nothing. I can kill the cultivators there, whether they're nascent soul cultivators or half-step soul formation cultivators. Jiang Tian gently fanned himself with his fan. His face was calm as he tried to persuade them, "Go in peace. I can deal with them." "Then I hope you can defeat the Dragon Gate and destroy the Jade Pool and the Hailan worlds as soon as possible." Takong and Mingi didn't hesitate anymore. They bowed deeply and then flew away. But this time, Jiang Tian didn't speak with his immortal will. Instead, he spoke with his mouth and everyone heard it clearly. They all changed their expressions and looked at Jiang Tian as if he were crazy. Some of the cultivators who were responsible for guarding even whispered and mocked him. "Is this person crazy? He can destroy the nascent soul cultivators of the Jade Pool and the Hailan worlds with one hand. He's a half-step soul formation cultivator. Does he think he's the ancestral patriarch of the true dragon sect? What nonsense are you spouting? He doesn't know his place." Emperor Qing, the lord of the Jade Pool, and Long Baxia, the lord of the Hailan worlds, have been invincible for thousands of years. This time, they didn't do it in person. They only asked Chen Bahuang and Sun Bojun to be their special envoys to destroy the Dragon Gate world. The 7 islands and 13 sects in the Dragon Gate world all had to swallow their pride. He can kill Emperor Qing and Long Baxia with one punch. What a joke! Alas, it seems that this guy might be from a wealthy family in the secular world. But he definitely doesn't have any real abilities. He doesn't know his place. But since the ancestral patriarch said so, we can only take him with us. I just hope he doesn't cause any trouble. Xie Tingran, who was originally very disappointed in Jiang Tian, saw that Jiang Tian was so arrogant and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. She could not help but despise Jiang Tian even more. In the cultivation world, the stronger one was the more they could feel the power of heaven and earth. The more they knew that the world was vast and there were many overlords, the more humble they would be. This young Lord Jiang was only at the foundation establishment level, but he was so arrogant, which meant that he didn't have any real power. Senior Xie, Miss Tingran, is it appropriate to take this guy with us? We are going to kill the overlords of the Jade Pool and Hailan worlds. This is not a game. An old cultivator, Xiao Guang, was very dissatisfied. He asked Xie Yan and Xie Tingran through immortal will. Xie Tingran's face turned red and she sighed in her heart. Xie Yan also didn't understand why the ancestral patriarch of the True Dragon sect wanted to follow this arrogant guy who looked weak. But he was a wise man after all. He said with a smile, "Yes, we must take him with us. This young Lord Jiang is a great benefactor to the Xie family. He is very important. He Xie Tingran's future husband." Jiang Tian concealed his cultivation level and restrained his divine aura. It was not worth mentioning at all. Now he had to take Jiang Tian and the ancestral patriarch of the True Dragon sect. Xie Yan had to find an excuse. He could only use Xie Tingran as a shield. Ancestral patriarch, you, what nonsense are you talking about? Xie Tingran stopped and looked at Xiao Bing worriedly. Her face was pale and she wanted to say something but stopped. Huh. When did Xie Tingran have a fiancé from the Kanglin world? Although Xie Tingran doesn't deserve me, she has always admired me. And I still need to use her feelings and Xie Yan's support to the extreme. How can I complicate things? Xiao Bing, who was arranging things, slowly turned his head. For the first time, he carefully looked at Jiang Tian. A few wisps of imperceptible coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 1365. He's very important? Her future husband? Seeing this, several cultivators looked at Xie Tingran's flushed face and resentment in her eyes. They couldn't help but send a message with their divine sense. Is he Xie Tingran's suitor? Some big family in the secular city? How could he be the first? He can't be compared to General Xiao at all. But how could Xie Yan like him? Not really. Today, it's different from before. The Dragon Gate has changed and the world is in chaos. As cultivators, we can either endure the humiliation and work like a horse for the Jade Lake oceanic waves, or we can rise up like General Xiao and stab them in the back. That old cultivator, Xiao Guang, was an old man of the Xiao family. He rolled his eyes at Jiang Tian with disdain and commented while shaking his head. But General Xiao is taking the lead and taking risks. How can he be safer than a secular young master? At least he can save his life. He was full of ridicule. Everyone felt a burst of sadness and cried out for Xiao Bing. By the way, they even felt a little disdain for Jiang Tian and Xie Yan. This was the reality. The cruel reality. A hero like Xiao Bing, a well-known hero who had killed so many cultivators of the Jade Pool and fought for the Dragon Gate world, was even worse than a rich young master in the eyes of people like Xie Yan. What kind of world was this? Soon, everyone packed up. Although the Xie family had already dismissed many of their servants and guards, there were still more than 10 of them left. Furthermore, they were all direct descendants of the Xie family. Fortunately, Xiao Bing came with a sea demon in the gold core stage. This sea demon was covered in dense scales and was 1,000 meters long. It was like a moving hill. Its 4 feet were like jade pillars and its webbed feet seemed to be able to cover the sky. With a stroke in the water, it set off monstrous waves and covered 10 miles in an instant. It was carrying a house on its back, like a moving palace. With a gold core stage demon as his mount, it could be seen that Xiao Bing's position in the rebel army was extraordinary. Everyone walked and stopped all the way to the encampment of the loyal army. In every city and island, there were branch leaders under Xiao Bing's command who opened the door to welcome them and bowed respectfully. Along the way, the leaders of the other rebel clans, sects, and gangs also came to welcome them. There was no obstacle along the way, which completely revealed Xiao Bing's domineering aura. Jiang Tian kept a low profile on the road. Apart from meditating cross-legged every day, he observed and understood the local customs, geography, products, economy, politics, and so on. He did everything, no matter how big or small, without leaving a trace. At first, those cultivators looked down on him, but after seeing that he didn't put on any airs and was straightforward and generous, and that the thunderfire wine in his storage ring tasted great, they forgot about their grudges and gradually became friends with him. However, the old cultivator, Xiao Guang, was still very displeased with Jiang Tian. He sneered and said, "You want to win over people's hearts with just a little bit of kindness? Ridiculous! Young Master Jiang, can you tell my ancestor and General Xiao that I'm not your fiancé? I have no feelings for you. Don't misunderstand." One day, Xie Tingran suddenly snuck into Jiang Tian's living quarters. Her face was red as she spoke with shame and anger. "This is Elder Xie's excuse. You don't have to take it to heart. You can tell General Xiao yourself." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and closed his eyes again. You don't want to say it. Are you lusting after me? You deliberately created a gap between General Xiao and me so that you can take advantage of it. Xie Tingran was so angry that she stomped her feet and tears welled up in her eyes. "I covet you? You think too much," Jiang Tian said faintly. He had deep feelings for Zhao Xueqing, and his love was as deep as the sea. His heart was devoted to his beloved wife. In Jiang Tian's eyes, not to mention Xie Tingran, even that arrogant princess was not as important as a strand of his beloved wife's hair. "I'm the first daughter of the Xie clan, the future president of the Royal Chamber of Commerce, Cape Chamber of Commerce. If this world is restored in the future, this position will be even more important. Don't you covet me?" The more Xie Tingran thought about it, the angrier she became. Her eyes were as cold as ice. Some things were not convenient for her to say. She was originally a famous beauty in this world, and her beauty surpassed all other beauties. In the past, who knew how many handsome young men wanted to get to know her, fawning on her in every way possible and racking their brains to get close to her. Even Sha Qianxiu's pressure on the Xie clan was partly because he coveted her beauty. Therefore, in her eyes, Jiang Tian was also one of them. "You're crazy. Get out. Don't delay your cultivation. I'm using you as a shield. That's your glory." Jiang Tian frowned and said coldly. Xie Tingran wiped her tears and coldly snorted. Her pure white face was cold as she said coldly, "Don't think that you can attract my attention and change my opinion of you just because you're acting like this. Please put away your pretentious attitude. Xie Tingran, will not fall for it. This will only make me hate you more. I'm attracting your attention. What right do you have?" Jiang Tian did not even open his eyes. He continued to meditate and said, "Long Yanan, are you an idiot? Throw her out of here right now. Be careful or I'll beat you again." "Yes, my lord." Long Yanan, who was dressed as a servant, was so scared that she trembled. She waved her sleeve and sent Xie Tingran flying. "Jiang, you've ruined my reputation and allowed your servant to commit murder. You've gone too far." Xie Tingran fell and left in a huff. After that day, Xie Tingran did not pay attention to Jiang Tian from beginning to end. Her eyes were filled with disgust and disgust. Xiaobing also did not pay attention to Jiang Tian. In his opinion, Jiang Tian was not qualified to compete with him. After more than 10 days, they finally arrived at Xiaobing's base. This base was a nameless island with a radius of about 30 miles. It was hard to see through the clouds. There were many killing arrays set up around it and several gold core stage monsters guarding it. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. "The Xie clan is here." A group of cultivators came to greet them. "Sister Tingran, you're finally here. Have a safe trip." One of them was a very beautiful girl who looked very similar to Xiaobing. She flew over at the fastest speed to greet him. She was 15 or 16 years old. She had a pretty face, bright eyes, and white teeth. Her well-developed body was wrapped in silver scale armor, and her curves were exquisite. She hugged Xie Tingran and rubbed her little head against her neck as she spoke in a sweet voice. "It went well." Xie Tingran smiled bitterly. The journey was very smooth, but the Xie clan had suffered heavy losses. This girl was Xiaobing's sister, Xiao Qingtan. She was only a teenager and had already reached the foundation establishment stage. She was also Xie Tingren's best friend. Now she was on this island, in charge of all the internal affairs. She also contributed to the resistance against Jade Lake and Hailan. Xiao Guang walked in front of Xiao Qingtan and set up a barrier to isolate the divine sense. Then, he used a secret divine sense to communicate with Xiao Qingtan for a while. Xiao Qingtan looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and snorted. Then she retracted her gaze and smiled. Everyone is tired from the journey. Let's settle down as soon as possible. Jiang Tian and the true dragon patriarch were treated as Xie Yan's followers. They were assigned to a small barrack, surrounded by low-level soldiers. However, Jiang Tian didn't care. This allowed him to understand the real situation. Brother Xiaobing has made a lot of contributions these days, right? Xie Tingran was pulled into her room by Xiao Qingtan. Xie Tingran asked curiously as soon as she entered the room. My brother is very powerful. Some time ago, on the Purple Shell Island, he killed dozens of Foundation establishment stage cultivators to save Princess Ao Jiao. Xiao Qingtan looked proud at first, then sighed regretfully. Unfortunately, she wasn't there. Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King are too cunning. They deliberately released the news to lure my brother. She went to save Ao Jiao again. Hearing Ao Jiao's name, Xie Tingren's body trembled. Her face turned pale and her eyes reddened. There was a complicated look in the depths of her beautiful eyes. There was worship, envy, jealousy, distress, and confusion. The Xie family's Cape Trading Company was a royal trading company. They were very rich. Although Xie Tingran was a lady from a prestigious family and was a big figure in the Dragon Gate world, she was nothing compared to Ao Jiao. In the end, the Xie family existed to buy and serve for the Ao family's royal family. They were like high-class servants. Ao Jiao was the noblest princess of the true dragon royal family. In the past, when Xie Tingran saw her, according to the rules, she had to kowtow 3 times and 9 times. Not only that, Ao Jiao had the purest flood dragon bloodline. She was very talented and her cultivation progress was very fast. At a young age, she had reached the golden core stage. Many senior experts thought highly of her and guessed that she had the chance to reach the nascent soul stage in her lifetime. The Xie family was a royal trading company. The Xiao family was a trusted subordinate of the Ao family. Xie Tingran and Xiaobing had known each other since they were young. A girl's feelings were always poetic. Xiaobing was tall and handsome. He treated people very well. The key was that he was very talented and his cultivation progress was very fast. Since young, Xie Tingran had been obsessed with and adored him. She was like a fan facing her idol. But Xiaobing loved Ao Jiao. Back then, when the ocean cover swordsman Sun Bojun led an army to besiege the Ao clan's royal family, he had once disregarded his own safety, entering and exiting 7 times, bathed in blood, and fought bravely to protect Ao Jiao and break through the encirclement. When Ao Jiao was captured again, he risked his life again and again. He was seriously injured several times and almost died. At this time, when she heard that Xiaobing had risked his life to rescue her again, Xie Tingran couldn't help but be annoyed. Xiaobing saved her again and again. Was it for the country or for love? Chapter 1366. Xiao Qingtan exuded a maturity and experience that did not match her age. She said seriously, "I know what you're worried about. But is your plan to be an imperial concubine or a general's wife? What do you mean?" Xie Tingran avoided her gaze and asked. Xiao Qingtan raised her hand and set up a soundproof restriction. She was still worried, so she set up another restriction that blocked the detection of divine sense. After checking carefully, she said, "Many princes of the Ao family have died in battle. Princess Ao Jiao is the only one left. And in the history of the Dragon Gate world, there is no precedent of a woman becoming an emperor. If my brother rescues Princess Ao Jiao, then he will have unparalleled achievements. Princess Ao Jiao can abdicate the throne and no one will object. If my brother becomes the emperor and marries you, then you will be his concubine. You will be second only to him and above everyone else." Xiao Qingtan's whip pierced into his body and pointed at his vital point. And if my brother can't do this, then he can only be the commander of the 9 gates in the capital city, an ordinary general. There are at least 80 people with such status in the Dragon Gate world. What status do you have? This? Is this your brother's idea? Xie Tingren's eyes flickered and she looked hesitant. Of course she wanted to monopolize Xiao Bing, but what Xiao Qingtan said was also the truth. Men, especially outstanding men, have 3 wives and 4 concubines, isn't it normal? Even those nobles in the secular world are like this. Cultivators have many Daoist companions, countless of them. Xiao Qingtan did not answer, but said patiently, with my brother's status, it's normal for him to marry 8 or 10 women. But my brother said that if he ascends the throne, he will only take you as his concubine. At that time, you will be second only to him and above everyone else. Okay, I have no problem. Xie Tingran blushed and nodded in agreement. Silly sister, this is not as simple as your acquiescence. You have to help my brother. Xiao Qingtan said softly. How can I help him? I also want to help him, but my cultivation is too weak. Xie Tingran said hesitantly. Now there are a total of 18 troops in the Dragon Gate army. They are all fighting for themselves and no one is willing to submit to anyone. There were sects, clans, guilds, and all sorts of other forces. My brother is only leading one of them. Xiao Qingtan said in a deep voice. The most important thing now is to elect my brother as the marshal to lead the various armies. Firstly, it was perfectly justifiable and easy to command and save Ao Jiao. Secondly, to accumulate merits and build a solid foundation for ascending to the throne in the future. Your Xie family has been serving the true dragon ancestor for 2 dynasties. Senior Xie Yan's words carry enormous weight. His attitude is very important. I can convince my ancestor. Xie Tingran nodded. Xiao Qingtan's face was filled with joy. She said in a tender voice, all right, then I won't be courteous in the future. I won't call you sister anymore. I'll call you sister-in-law. Don't shout outside. You'll be laughed at. His words made Xie Tingren's face flush red. Her bones felt lighter and she almost flew into the air. The 2 of them laughed and joked for a while. Suddenly, Xie Tingren's eyes turned cold. What if Ao Jiao doesn't want to marry brother Xiao Bing, or even if she does, she doesn't want to give up the throne? She's the only direct descendant of the Ao family left. The rest of them have low cultivation and don't even have a gold core. Xiao Qingtan sneered disdainfully. A ruthless decisiveness that didn't match her age appeared. She said, we're willing to save her only because she's the symbol of the true dragon dynasty. This is called holding the dragon girl hostage to command the Dragon Gate. If she dares not to give up the throne, then kill her. Let her and the descendants of the Ao family die without a burial place. Is this also your brother's idea? Xie Tingran was a little creepy. Is this important? These things have nothing to do with sister-in-law. You just have to wait to be your imperial concubine. Xiao Qingtan covered her mouth and laughed. Her beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent shape. She looked innocent, as if the viciousness just now had nothing to do with her. Suddenly, she asked again, by the way, that young Master Jiang, what's your relationship with him? It seems that Senior Xie Yan thinks highly of him. He's a refugee from the Kanglin world. Xie Tingran also knew that there were some rumors going around. She was extremely annoyed and quickly drew a clear line. It seems that my family owes him a favor. But I didn't know him before. Young Master Jiang doesn't have the slightest ability, but he's arrogant and looks down on everyone. He's like a leather plaster that can't be shaken off. From the Kanglin world? Xiao Qingtan looked at him with disdain and said, a refugee from the Kanglin world. He still dares to show off here. If he dares to do that again, I'll teach him a lesson. I won't kill him for Senior Xie Yan's sake, but I'll definitely destroy his cultivation. That's a small matter. The key is that Brother Xiao will become the marshal of the loyal and brave army. We still need to plan this carefully. Xie Tingran didn't take Jiang Tian seriously and said worriedly. After some planning, she went to Xie Yan's barracks and talked for a while. But she didn't know. None of this escaped the immortal will of Jiang Tian and ancestral patriarch True Dragon. Although Jiang Tian was a golden core cultivator, his immortal will was so powerful that it instantly covered the entire nameless island. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon was a nascent soul cultivator. Unless the other party had an array set up by a nascent soul cultivator, they couldn't escape his immortal will. I thought he was loyal. I didn't expect that he just wanted to use the name of the AO family to start a new family. In the simple barracks, ancestral patriarch True Dragon sighed and shook his head with a sad and disappointed face. This is the importance of strength. Jiang Tian was meditating with his legs crossed. Hearing this, he slowly opened his eyes and flicked his fingers with a calm expression. He said calmly, "The legitimacy of the royal family and the loyalty of the people are only secondary. In the world of cultivation, the one with the biggest fist would always have the right to speak." Now, the AO family and True Dragon sect had been crushed to the point that not many were left. If the Xiao family wants to replace them, it's just a matter of words. "Master, you're right." Ancestral patriarch True Dragon bowed and said yes. "Let's wait and see. In the process, carefully identify who is truly loyal and who is just using the rescue of the AO family's bloodline to make themselves stronger. We need to protect the strong. As for the latter, we don't care whether they live or die." Jiang Tian closed his eyes and immersed himself in cultivation. His breath was dim and indistinct, like an old monk in meditation. The next day, following his order, the nameless island quickly became busy. The logistics department brought the maids and servants to organize the banquet. In addition, flying swords were sent to invite the tyrants to the nameless island to attend the banquet. On one hand, it was to welcome Xie Yan and the disciples of the Xie family to celebrate the rescue. More importantly, it was to elect the marshal of the 18 loyal troops to lead the battle against Sun Bojun, Giant Shark King, and the cultivators of Jade Lake. Although Xie Yan's position wasn't high, he was a direct descendant of the AO family and an important minister of the True Dragon dynasty. In addition, electing the marshal of the army involved the rise of the morale of the resistance forces and the future of the Dragon Gate world. Basically, the leaders of the 18 loyal troops didn't dare to be negligent. They brought their friends and companions and came. Those who attended the banquet were not only the leaders of the resistance army, but also the sons and heirs of the major royalist families and sections. There were even many sect masters and family heads. It could be said that people from all over the world had gathered in one place. In the evening, a rainbow flashed across the sky. The rainbow was filled with true water like the Milky Way. One could vaguely see an 8-armed overlord. This expert was tall and majestic, revealing his bronze skin. His hair was disheveled, and his 8 tentacles extended in all directions. They seemed to be able to tear apart the sky and cut off the mountains and rivers. A violent aura filled the sky above the island. It's Zhang Yuzi, a disciple of the Zhang family of the 1,000-foot race. It said that he formed a golden core in his 30s. He's now a mid-stage golden core cultivator. Someone looked up with respect. The 1,000-foot race is a big race among the sea demons. They're powerful and not weaker than the Xiao family. They occupy the North Wind Island of the 7 Deity Islands and are second only to the AO family. Zhang Yuzi is considered a top-notch existence among the younger generation of geniuses. In the vast Dragon Gate world, he's invincible. Other than Xiao Bing, not many young people of this generation are his opponents. He's at least ranked in the top 20. Another person said with a trembling voice, "Xiao Bing, come out and fight." Zhang Yuzi's appearance was rough, and he rode the wind and waves. He was like a deity who could summon a great flood. His 8 tentacle-like arms waved in unison as he shouted loudly. "Why are they fighting again?" Someone exclaimed. "Zhang Yuzi has the blood of the octopus." In the living quarters, Jiang Tian had an indifferent expression as he chuckled. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon felt bitter. Xie Yan smiled bitterly and explained. "There are a total of 18 resistance forces now, but they're all doing their own thing and no one is willing to submit to anyone. They all think that he's the leader of the Dragon Guard family. Zhang Yuzi and Xiaobing have also fought several times. Zhang Yuzi, you've already lost to me once in the Flying Fish Sea. Do you want to humiliate yourself again? Xiaobing's sarcastic voice came from one of the camps. So Xiaobing has already defeated Zhang Yuzi. This is big news. Many people were shocked. You sneak attacked. What kind of ability is that? I'm not convinced. Don't be a coward. Fight again. Zhang Yuzi roared and grabbed a 100-meter-long mountain with his giant claw and smashed it toward Xiaobing's camp. Swish. A peerless heavenly saber swept out from the camp. The dense saber light filled the void and chopped the tall mountain into pieces. The monstrous power pressed down on everyone, making it difficult for them to breathe. Zhang Yuzi, I invited you here today to discuss important matters, not to compete for the position of marshal. If you want to fight with General Xiao, you'll have to get through me first. A tall expert with knee-length arms rushed to the sky from the camp and roared in a muffled voice. It was wearing a strange-looking armor, but the armor was engraved with many vivid and lifelike patterns of fish, insects, and birds. The parts of its body that were not covered by the armor were covered with long and soft white hair that fluttered in the wind like water waves. However, it had the face of an ape. With one look, one could tell that it was not a human. It was actually a white ape. Chapter 1367. However, the cultivation of this white ape was extremely powerful. It had reached the late stage of the golden core realm. It held a glittering and translucent saber in its hand. There was a faint flow of liquid on the saber, as if it was formed by special true water. It was not ordinary steel or metal. It was tall and muscular, as if it could shake the sun and the moon. Obviously, its physique and bloodline were extremely powerful. White water vapor spurted out of the white ape's thick nostrils. Its face was ferocious. With the saber in its hand and the armor on its body, it did not look like an immortal. Instead, it looked like a yaksha. Shui Qianxing from the Water Ape Island Army is here too. Everyone exclaimed. Is he a descendant of the water ape? Whose son is he? The true dragon patriarch asked in surprise. Shui Jueluan's son. Shui Qianxing is only in his 20s. However, half of the valiant bravery of the Shui family had fallen half a year ago. Shui Jueluan was also sacrificed. Xie Yan quickly replied. He's not bad. The true dragon old ancestor was impressed. He then said to Jiang Tian through his divine sense, they are all useful talents. I don't think so. Cultivation is only one aspect. Jiang Tian nodded with a half-smile. This white-haired ape was a descendant of the primordial water ape. Although the primordial water ape was an ape, it did not live in the woods. It usually lived in the coral at the bottom of the water and ate fish, prawns, and clams. It was extremely intelligent and had the ability to control water flow. As it grew older, its ability became stronger. It was the overlord of the water. A young primordial water ape was not afraid of ferocious water beasts, such as tiger sharks and carnivorous whales. An adult primordial water ape was even more terrifying. Even the dragon that dominated the bottom of the sea had to be afraid of it. If it had the guidance of a master, coupled with cultivation, its bloodline would be stimulated and it would become even more powerful. However, in Jiang Tian's opinion, if one wanted to be his subordinate and control the situation for him, cultivation was only one aspect. It also depended on one's intelligence. In the end, the fight did not happen. Suddenly, a ray of light shot through the sky and a person appeared. This person's movements were extremely fast, but his appearance was not flattering. His head was big, his body was small, and his back was slightly arched, as if there was something pressing down on his back. Not only was his body wretched, but his face was also incomparably ugly. His skin was dark with a tinge of yellow, and it was very rough. His huge nose and nostrils were facing the sky, and his two bright yellow eyes were very small. Sometimes they were perfectly round, and sometimes they were squinted into a slit. When he squinted his eyes, his skin and flesh closed up, and there was actually no trace of it. It was as if he did not have eyes. This was especially true for its large mouth. Its thick lips were turned outwards, revealing sharp white teeth from time to time. It was like a wild beast. Just its large mouth and huge nose took up half of its entire face. It was as ugly as it could get. Brothers, His Majesty Aobo's body has yet to turn cold, and many of his descendants are in prison, their lives hanging by a thread. We are all cultivators of the Dragon Gate. Back then, we all served His Majesty Aobo. Now, before we even fought with the enemy, we are already fighting among ourselves. If news of this spread out, wouldn't the heroes in the world laugh their teeth off? Wouldn't it make our enemies happy? He stood between the two of them and bowed. Although his appearance was ugly, his smile was warm and his gestures were refined and courteous. There was a sense of peace about him, and even his faint demonic aura was lively and lively. He was even more righteous than the so-called human cultivators. His smile was like a spring breeze as he smiled faintly. Brothers, the enemy is right in front of us. Do me a favor and put away your Dharma manifestation divine powers and weapons. This is the old master of the nation, perfected cultivator Xianxia of the Hall of Surging Waves. He can suppress them. This fight will not happen. Everyone was relieved. Perfected cultivator Xianxia was very powerful and had already formed the nascent soul. He was not far away from the nascent soul level and could be called a half-heavenly lord. Also, he was very senior and had always been fair in dealing with matters. His words made the white ape and Shui Qianxing blush. They put away their Dharma manifestation divine powers and entered the camp. Jiang Tian nodded and smiled. This person is a talent that can be cultivated. The world has changed. Monsters look like humans and humans look like monsters. Soon, the camp was brightly lit and the guests gathered. The banquet had begun. On the stage, overlords such as Xiao Bing, Zhang Yuzi and Shui Qianxing were sitting alone. Some of them were sharp, some of them were full of water vapor and some of them were powerful Dharma manifestations. They were the center of attention. The city lords and the island lords sat on the side. Below them were the generals of the rebel forces and the juniors of the families and sections. As for Jiang Tian, he was arranged to sit at the end. Around him were some presidents of the Chamber of Commerce and members of the small and medium-sized families. The Cape Chamber of Commerce was the royal chamber of commerce of the Zhenlong dynasty and was on par with many families, sects and island lords. Of course, Xiaobing had to be careful. But Jiang Tian and the ancestral patriarch of the Zhenlong dynasty were only Xie Yan's old friends and their cultivation was average. So, there was no need to give them face. Letting Jiang Tian attend the meeting was for Xie Yan's sake. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been qualified to attend. Everyone, Sun Bojun was defeated by the ancestral patriarch of the Zhenlong dynasty and made a promise with the ancestral patriarch that he would be loyal to the Ao family for as long as he lived. This meeting was hosted by perfected cultivator Xianxia, who had the highest seniority. He stood up and said politely, Sun Bojun forgot to forget about Sun Bojun. However, Sun Bojun forgot his promise and willingly became the lackey of the ocean wave Jade Lake, attacking the true dragon bloodline. The giant shark king was half a disciple of the ancestral patriarch of the Zhenlong dynasty. The ancestral patriarch taught him many cultivation techniques and helped him activate his bloodline. But he betrayed the ancestral patriarch and the Dragon Gate world. The war that has lasted for more than 10 years has spread throughout the Dragon Gate world. The people have no way of making a living and hundreds of millions of people have died. Just a few days ago, they attacked the Xie family of the Cape Chamber of Commerce and killed more than 10 people. Brother Xie Yan just didn't want to be the city lord and the island lord. But they killed so mercilessly. Their actions are worse than beasts. How to fight against the cultivators of the ocean wave Jade Lake. How to kill Sun Bojun, the giant shark king and the other traitors. Everyone, the 18 dragon protectors are here today. We should come up with a plan. Kill them. We are the dragon protectors. We are the traders of the Dragon Gate and the cultivators of the Jade Lake and Ocean Wave Jade Lake. We cannot live under the same sky. When the atrocities of the Jade Lake and Ocean Wave Jade Lake were mentioned, everyone hated Sun Bojun, the giant shark king, Sha Qianxio and the other traders. They slammed the table and roared fiercely, as if they couldn't wait to cut them into 8 pieces and grind their bones to dust to vent their hatred. The so-called dragons are the leaders. There are now a total of 18 rebel forces. We have to choose a leader. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to achieve great things. At this time, Zhang Yuzi sipped the divine wine and looked at Xiaobing maliciously. General Xiaobing killed 23 Foundation establishment cultivators in a row. His achievements are unparalleled. He is a true hero. Could it be that there's someone more suitable for the position of marshal than him? Shui Qianxing raised his cup and laughed. Come, let me propose a toast to the commander. Brother Shui, I don't dare. I don't deserve it. Xiaobing's words were polite, but he was as calm as a rock. Obviously, he was determined to be the commander. Zhang Yuzi's face was gloomy. Playing with the wine cup, he smiled and said, Xiaobing is a human. He has no siren blood. Everyone knows that the Dragon Gate has been the siren's world since ancient times. What qualifications does he have to lead the heroes? At this time, whether it is the human or the siren, they are all part of the Dragon Gate world. Sun Bojun has the siren's blood, and he is also a 1,000-legged octopus like you. Is it suitable for him to be the leader of the army? Xiaobing retorted. Xiaobing, how dare you insult me? Zhang Yuzi shouted angrily, Sun Bojun has the same blood as us. But he is a special envoy from the ocean wave world. What does he have to do with the Zhang family? Do you have to mention insulting me again and again? You don't do anything serious all day and repeatedly provoke internal strife. I wonder if you are on the side of the real Dragon Dynasty or on the side of Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King. Xiaobing did not move. Xiaobing is a human. If we take back the Dragon Gate world, will he give up his position to the AO family? Absolutely not. I support Zhang Yuzi. Yes, it is more reliable for Zhang Yuzi to be the commander. The siren bloodline is connected. We are bound together for good or ill. Xiaobing used to be a general under His Majesty Aobo. If he is not loyal, then he is trustworthy. If he is not loyal, why would His Majesty Aobo put him in an important position? I support Senior Xiaobing. At this time, why do we still talk about bloodline? We are all people of the Dragon Gate world. We should abandon the past and unite as one. The commander of the 18th Army belongs to the capable. Xiaobing's cultivation is the highest. Of course, he is the most suitable. We can't just consider the cultivation. This is a war. The art of war, the arrangement of troops, and the right command are more important. This is a big matter. We have to think about it in the long run. I want to say that it is better for everyone to do their own thing. What if we converge into an army and are defeated? Zhang Yuzi and Xiaobing each had a group of supporters. For a time, they spoke and berated each other. Some even took out their weapons and magic weapons and were about to fight. The atmosphere was tense. In the middle, there were representatives who did not support the selection of the commander at all. There were also middle-of-the-road parties who mediated. The whole banquet was in chaos and no one could hear each other clearly. Just when everyone was arguing and the banquet was in chaos. Suddenly, there was a mocking laugh. What heroes? In my opinion, they are just a bunch of clowns who only want power. How many of them actually want to restore the true Dragon Dynasty? How many of them actually want to restore the true Dragon Dynasty? It is difficult for them to achieve great things. What did you say? Who are you scolding? At this time, everyone turned to look at Jiang Tian and glared at him. They wanted to pull out Jiang Tian's tendons and skin him alive. Brat, you called us cowards and buffoons. What's your cultivation base like? Are you in the nascent soul stage? Why don't you compete with me? Come on. Let's see what qualifications you have to talk nonsense. At this time, Zhang Yuzi and Shui Qianxing no longer quarreled with each other. Instead, they turned around and looked at Jiang Tian as if he was an ant. Their faces were unfriendly and murderous. Chapter 1368. Humph, this guy even scolded everyone. He is really courting death. Who is he? It seems that he is only at the early stage of foundation establishment. Is he qualified to participate in this kind of gathering? Who brought him in? Why don't you ask him to get out of here? We don't even need to throw him out. If Zhang Yuzi and Shui Qianxing take action, will he still have a chance to survive? Which one of them isn't a genius who can suppress the world? Everyone had mocking expressions on their faces, but there wasn't much sympathy. After all, Jiang Tian's words were too arrogant. He simply regarded the heroes in the world as useless chickens and pottery dogs. They are friends of the Xie family. He is new here and doesn't know many rules. Please forgive him. Xie Tingren's face was full of shame and indignation. She pleaded for Jiang Tian, but she was very dissatisfied. She softly but anxiously scolded Jiang Tian. How can a low-level cultivator like you speak in this kind of occasion? Drink wine and eat meat. Humph. Even Xiaobing's face showed a trace of displeasure. He snorted heavily and did not stop Shui Qianxing and Zhang Yuzi. If it wasn't out of consideration for Xie Yan, he would have already made a move and crushed this kid that spoke rudely into a rain of meat. Xiao Qingtan still needed to make use of Xie Yan. For Xie Yan's sake, he did not scold Jiang Tian. He just sipped his tea and sneered. This guy was really arrogant and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He offended everyone with just one sentence. When Xiaobing's position as the commander-in-chief was confirmed, no one would be willing to stop him from killing this guy. At this time, Immortal Shenge suddenly slammed the table and shouted angrily, Shui Qianxing, Zhang Yuzi, sit down. Do you think that I, the host of this meeting, don't exist? Senior, I will give you face. Today, I will not embarrass a little mortal. Isn't it because this guy's mouth is too arrogant? Shui Qianxing and Zhang Yuzi both sat down angrily, but they did not forget to stare at Jiang Tian with malicious intentions. If you ask me, although this young Master Zhang's words are fierce, his words are crude but not crude. They are quite reasonable. Perfected Lord Shenge sighed and said with a worried face, our loyal and brave army has less than 100,000 people. He simply couldn't compare to Sun Bojun and the giant Shark King. What's more, the Jade Lake and Hailan armies are still coming. The enemy is strong and we are weak. In such a severe and dangerous situation, it is even more necessary for us to work together and concentrate our efforts in one direction. But in order to fight for the position of commander-in-chief, you fought each other. If His Majesty Ao Bo were to know of this, I'm afraid he would be heartbroken. His words left everyone speechless and at a loss for words. Xiaobing coughed and broke the silence. Senior, that is indeed the case. However, if we don't have a commander, we will have to fight on our own, and our forces will be scattered. I'm afraid that we won't be able to last for long. Immortal Black Turtle seemed to be deep in thought. He said awkwardly, Xiaobing, you've seen it too. If you insist on this topic, something will happen. At this moment, under Xie Tingren's continuous eye signals, Yi Zichen nodded. Xie Yan stood up and said, this old man supports General Xiaobing. He used to command the army of Dragon City. He also killed many cultivators and rescued the big families. Isn't it because Xie Tingran admires him? That's why you're speaking for him. Zhang Yuzi suddenly snorted and said mockingly, Senior Xie Yan, you can't speak and do things for personal reasons. As soon as he said this, many people sneered. Xie Tingran was so embarrassed that her face suddenly turned red. Xiao Qinggan shouted, Zhang Yuzi, what nonsense are you talking about? My brother's achievements are obvious to all. Senior Xie is also speaking for the public. The banquet that had just calmed down became noisy again. It was so noisy that it gave people a headache. At this time, a cultivator dressed like a Confucian scholar stood up and said with a smile, I have an idea. Please decide. Heavenly Book Sect's young master, Qin Shangqing. One of the 18 dragon guards. Not only is this person's cultivation strong, only slightly inferior to Xiaobing, Zhang Yuzi, and Shui Qianxing, but he is also very knowledgeable, resourceful, and well-versed in the art of war. His words must be reasonable. Everyone quieted down. Even Xiaobing, Shui Qianxing, and Zhang Yuzi, the elites of the world, were listening attentively. Brother Qin is eloquent, and his wisdom is even better than perfected cultivator Shenge. I hope he can speak for you. Xiao Qingtan's beautiful eyes shone brightly. She looked quite excited, as if she was a fan who had seen her idol. Qin Shangqing's movements were graceful, elegant, and unrestrained. He had the demeanor of a great master. He smiled faintly and said, I have spent countless heavenly treasures to exchange for a piece of news. Sun Bojun has sent an invitation to the major traders. A few days later, there will be a cultivation furnace auction on the 18 Island. The auction will be held by the Dragon Lady, Ao Jiao. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and angry. They slammed the table and shouted angrily. What? He is auctioning Princess Ao Jiao as a cultivation furnace. Sun Bojun is vicious, too vicious. He doesn't treat us Dragon Gate cultivators as human beings. He is riding on our necks and shitting. This is intolerable. If we don't kill him, we are not human beings. Xiaobing's face was also gloomy. He clenched his fists tightly. Although he wanted to use Ao Jiao, it was impossible to say that he did not have any feelings for her. Seniors, fellow cultivators, brothers, please listen to me. Qin Shangqing clasped his hands and said with a sad face, You are right. Ao Jiao is the descendant of the late emperor. Her bloodline is noble and she is the symbol of the true dragon dynasty. But now she is being sold as a cultivation furnace by Sun Bojun. This is a slap to the face of all the Dragon Gate cultivators. His tone became indignant and impassioned, and it was extremely infectious. And once the dragon girl Ao Jiao becomes someone else's cultivation furnace, it will be a great humiliation to us cultivators who are loyal and righteous. How do you have the face to stand between heaven and earth? How do you have the face to face the late Emperor Ao Bo? That's right. If we don't kill Sun Bojun and save the dragon girl Ao Jiao, we will be too ashamed to live. For a moment, everyone was agitated. They shouted and their killing intent soared. That's right. Princess Ao Jiao must be saved. And now, we are fighting for the position of Marshal of the 18 armies. Qin Shangqing said, Then my suggestion is very simple. Whoever can save Dragon Girl Ao Jiao will be the Grand Marshal of the 18 armies. Everyone will listen to his orders, and no one will dare to disobey him. What do you think? No problem. Zhang Yuzi nodded and glanced at Xiaobing provocatively. I second it. Xiaobing pondered for a while and nodded slowly. I second it. Seeing Xiaobing nodding, Shui Qianxing quickly followed. I second it. I second it. In the end, the representatives of the 18 armies nodded in agreement. The old state preceptor, Immortal Sheng, felt that something was wrong. He frowned and said, Young Master Qin, what if the enemy ambushed us and surrounded us? Even though Sun Bojun is being very careful about such an important matter and hasn't made a big fuss about it, in order to prevent any accidents from happening, he will definitely have a lot of experts guarding the place during the auction, and there will be an ambush. Qin Shangqing said calmly, But I want to ask the old state preceptor, if there is a mountain of knives and a sea of fire ahead, can we not go? Immortal Shenge pondered for a while and sighed deeply. That's right. Sun Bojun is really vicious. He knows that we have to go. Even if it is a fire pit, we will jump in. I will go too. Don't worry. Xiaobing said in a low voice. Sun Bojun and Giant Shark King, these two nascent soul stage cultivators are indeed powerful. We have more than a dozen golden core stage cultivators and Immortal Shenge, who is a nascent soul stage cultivator. Although we can't kill the enemy, we should be able to save Ao Jiao and retreat safely. Beside him, Xiao Qingten also nodded. I think that these two bastards might not expect us to save Ao Jiao. They might not come personally. Her words were not without reason. Sun Bojun was now the state preceptor, and Giant Shark King was the king, ruling the entire Dragon Gate territory. But the 18 armies were roaming around and killing rebels. The two of them often suppressed them. Miss Qingtan, you are very knowledgeable. Women are not inferior to men. Qin Shangqing looked at Xiao Qingtan with admiration, causing Xiao Qingtan's face to turn red. Her heart was filled with happiness. Qin Shangqing retracted his gaze and glanced at the crowd. The 18 armies and even our fathers can cause trouble in other places. They can even attack the fake palace in Dragon Capital and the state preceptor's residence. At this time, Sun Bojun and Giant Shark King will definitely return to defend. If we attack together, we can ensure that nothing goes wrong. Good. This is a good plan. If these two bastards stay in Dragon Capital, there will only be some golden core stage cultivators left on the 18 plates. They are nothing to worry about. Yes. Let's do it this way. Let them be distracted and our chances of winning will be 100%. Once we rescue Miss Ao Jiao, our brave and loyal army will surely sweep away our declining state, and our morale will be greatly boosted. At that time, killing all the traitors and sweeping through the cultivators of the Jade Lake will be a cinch. Hearing Qin Shangqing's words, everyone's eyes lit up. They agreed and applauded. They were very confident in this operation. What a resourceful man. Xiao Qingtan's beautiful eyes were full of admiration. Xiao even nodded slightly. Even Xiao Bing nodded slightly, thinking that if he became the emperor one day, he would definitely put this person in an important position. Just when everyone was in high spirits, a bucket of cold water poured down. Suddenly, another bucket of cold water was poured over their heads. Jiang Tian slowly opened his mouth and said, "You guys are courting death. How do you know that Sun Bojun and Giant Shark King will be the only two nascent soul stage cultivators in this world? Their strength is not something you can imagine. You are going to die if you go to the 18 plates. Why did this man speak again? Why hasn't he been chased out yet?" Some cultivators shouted angrily. "You have repeatedly boosted the prestige of others and destroyed our spirit. Are you trying to confuse the hearts of the army?" Shui Qianxing shouted angrily. "This man has been disrupting the meeting time and time again. It is obvious that he is harboring evil intentions. He might be a spy planted by Jade Lake. It is best to kill him." Xiao Qingtan communicated with the important people present. She wanted to kill him. She had already used Xie Yan, but she did not achieve good results. She might have to give face to Xie Yan. However, Jiang Tian was just an old friend of Xie Yan's in Kanglin world. He came from a humble background and his cultivation was low. Killing him was not a big deal. If she knew that Jiang Tian came from Earth, she would be even more disdainful. She might even kill Jiang Tian directly. Chapter 1369. Humph. If we can't do it, can he? Cowardly and timid, can he still be considered a man? Kill him and use his blood as a sacrifice for this rescue operation. Let everyone see what happens to those who are afraid of battle and those who confuse the hearts of the army. To strengthen the prestige of our Longzhongyong army. Many cultivators criticized and cursed, their eyes almost spitting fire. In an instant, Jiang Tian became the target of public criticism. "Everyone, don't be angry, don't do anything. This young Master Jiang is doing this out of kindness, he just wants us to be careful." At this time, Xie Yan also panicked and quickly pleaded for Jiang Tian. Although he pleaded for mercy, he was also quite dissatisfied with Jiang Tian. Since the true dragon patriarch respected Jiang Tian's background must be extraordinary. It was very likely that he was a descendant of a famous sect from another high-level world. He probably came to this world with the true dragon patriarch to gain experience. But in his opinion, Jiang Tian's own ability was just SOSO. Jiang Tian himself said that he was only at the early stage of the gold core stage. Jiang Tian was even exaggerating. Since you are here to gain experience and accumulate achievements, then just be a bystander. Leave everything to the true dragon patriarch. Why do you have to repeatedly speak rudely and annoy everyone? Patriarch, don't worry about them. Xie Tingran stopped Xie Yan and told him not to meddle in other people's business. She looked at Jiang Tian with annoyance, her attitude clear. Patriarch, for no reason, said that he is my future husband and tarnished my reputation. It's good to kill him. The rumors will be dispelled. Qin Shangqing and Xiao Bing were both mature and steady people. At this time, the two of them did not say a word. They only sipped the immortal wine and sneered maliciously as they watched Jiang Tian being besieged. A mere chi refinement stage cultivator with almost no cultivation. What right do you have to attend the meeting? What right do you have to comment on such a military matter? How dare you spout nonsense at such an important occasion? You are simply courting death. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will kill you. Get out. Zhang Yuzi stood up and approached, looking down at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at an ant. Zhang Yuzi, don't kill them. Immortal Xianxia tried to persuade Zhang Yuzi, but he didn't look happy either. He just forbade Zhang Yuzi from killing people, not telling her not to do anything. Jiang Tian's words were not without reason. However, he was only present as a non-voting attendee and did not have the right to speak, yet he repeatedly disrupted the proceedings of the meeting. If he was not punished, where were the rules? How could he establish his authority? How could he govern the army? Do you know that even the realm lords of Jade Lake and Sea Tide wouldn't dare to talk to me like this? Didn't your elders tell you to be respectful when meeting elders? If I kill you with a single palm strike, even your 1,000-foot race's patriarch won't be able to do anything. Jiang Tian said indifferently as he took a sip of the Thunderflame wine and drank by himself. It was as if the person he was facing was not the leader of an army, the son of the 1,000-foot clan, but an ant. Elder? Honorifics? You're just a mortal ant. What qualifications do you have to make me use honorifics? Courting death. I won't kill you today for immortal Shuanggui's sake. But you'll have to suffer. Zhang Yuzi was enraged. His blood boiled and his Dharma form was activated. Immediately, his 8 tentacle-like arms extended to a length of 100 meters and reached into the void, making him look like an 8-armed demon god. He was extraordinarily mighty. His 8 arms swayed in unison like dragons soaring in the sky, and they grabbed towards Jiang Tian as if they wanted to brazenly tear Jiang Tian apart and dismember him into 1,000 pieces. Very well, you're lucky. You're still alive today just because you said you wouldn't kill me. Today, I'll only ask you to kneel and apologize. Jiang Tian looked indifferent and sighed. He put down the cup calmly and waved at Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon. Yes, Master. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon bowed and reached out his right hand. Boom! A loud sound rang out. An invisible force suddenly erupted and pressed down on Zhang Yuzi and the Fa Xiang like Mount Tai. It was about to crush the Fa Xiang and make him kneel. 8 arms shaking the heavens. Zhang Yuzi yelled. His dantian rumbled and his golden core jumped. His true essence flowed into his tentacles like dragons and pythons, making his Dharma form more solid. He wanted to resist the power of Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon. He was a golden core cultivator in the first place and had a special bloodline and a phenomenal success monster body. In terms of battling power, he was not much weaker than a peak stage golden core grand perfected cultivator, especially when he was facing 2 refugees from the Kanglin world. He was confident that he could win, so he had been disrespectful to Jiang Tian. But out of his expectation, his law connection didn't even last half a finger before it shattered with a bang. Immediately after, boundless pressure that was vast and heavy like a continent descended from the sky. It was copious and irresistible, and it pressed him down to the ground with a bang like a toad. He prostrated himself on the ground and was in an extremely sorry state. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon defeated Zhang Yuzi, who was one of the top 5 overlords in the army. How is that possible? Other than Xie Yan, all the cultivators around were dumbfounded. Zhang Yuzi was ranked in the top 3 among the 18 loyal warriors. His 8-armed demonic god technique had the power to move mountains and seas. Even among the younger generation of the entire Dragon Gate world, he was invincible and could be ranked in the top 10. And yet, he was slapped to the ground by young Master Zhang's old servant. How could this old servant be so powerful? He was at least a mid-stage golden core cultivator. Everyone looked in disbelief at Jiang Tian, who waved his fan lazily, and their gazes were filled with suspicion and bewilderment. Golden core cultivators were called perfected cultivators and were extremely difficult to cultivate. They needed endless resources and the guidance of an expert. There might not even be 1 in 10 million cultivators. In the Dragon Gate world, golden core perfected cultivators controlled a country, a sect, an island, and a city. Their words carried weight and the world would tremble when they stomped their feet. They were supreme giants. Even in the high-level dimensional worlds like Jade Lake and Hylon, gold core stage cultivators were not to be underestimated. They could serve as the elders and consecrators of the peerless Daoist orthodoxies of the supreme sects, or serve as the grand preceptor, marshal, marquis, and high officials in the secular countries. They were in charge of thousands of troops and held great power. Then this young Master Jiang was just an ordinary man. What was his background? What was his backing? Why would a golden core perfected cultivator follow him so loyally? Zhang Yuzi roared, unwilling to accept this reality. He originally wanted to humiliate Jiang Tian, who had angered everyone, and use this to establish his authority. He did not expect to be suppressed like this by a refugee from a remote place like the Kanglin world. It was a great humiliation. His true essence was boiling, and his golden core was almost burning. Vast amounts of true essence condensed into dragon-like tentacles that erupted from his dantian. Each tentacle was capable of overturning the seas and rivers, trying to prop up his body. But unfortunately, not only was he unable to stand up, he was suppressed once more. His entire body sank into the ground with a loud rumble, leaving behind a human-shaped imprint on the hard mountain rocks. The ground caved in, forming a 10-meter-wide crater. A huge gully spread out in all directions, causing the entire nameless island to tremble uneasily. Everyone was speechless. Xiao Qingten covered her mouth and almost exclaimed. Xie Tingran widened her eyes, as if it was the first time she had met ancestral patriarch True Dragon. Shui Qianxin clenched his fists and wanted to help, but after hesitating for a moment he stepped back. I've misjudged him. Even Xiao Bing's pupils contracted and there was a hint of fear on his face. Jiang Tian might be nothing in his eyes, but his old servant was definitely not to be trifled with. Even a golden core perfected cultivator might not be a match for him. Why do I feel that this old man is a bit similar? Perfected cultivator Xianxia was startled, and he looked suspicious. Jiang, ask your evil servant to let go of me. Otherwise, the 1,000-foot race will kill you even if we have to chase you to heaven and earth. Everyone was so shocked that they were speechless. They didn't even have the time to persuade Zhang Yuzi. Thus, Zhang Yuzi actually shouted loudly. You're courting death. Jiang Tian's eyes became cold and murderous. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon didn't say a word. His true essence spurted out from his palm and after a few cracking sounds, Zhang Yuzi's body was covered in blood. His skin and flesh were torn and his bones were broken. He sank 10 meters into the ground again and couldn't make a sound. A dignified and angry roar was suddenly heard. The crowd parted like a tide. Xiao Bing, who was wearing heavy black iron armor and a blood-red cloak, strode over. He looked dignified and cold. Fellow Daoist, you hurt my guest on my island, and it was just a small quarrel. You are so cruel. Do you think I don't exist? Of course, Xiao Bing knew that ancestral patriarch True Dragon was very powerful and was even on par with him. But this was his army and he was the owner of this place. If he didn't stop them, he would lose his prestige in the future. General Xiao, don't be rash. These two are people you can't afford to offend. Xie Yan was anxious and tried to persuade him. But ancestral patriarch True Dragon waved his hand and said, Xie Yan, you don't have to speak for me. An old man knows what to do. Xie Yan could only bow and agree, keeping his mouth shut. Let go. Xiao Bing shouted, since you're new here and don't know the strict rules, I won't punish you. He was a golden core perfected cultivator who had once led millions of soldiers and experienced countless battles. His iron-blooded aura was naturally dignified. His brows were raised like heavenly blades and he looked majestic, scaring everyone into silence. Just when everyone thought that Jiang Tian was going to back down. How dare you disrespect my master? You're courting death. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon's face turned cold and he pressed his hand down. Zhang Yuzi, who was in the deep pit, didn't even have time to scream before he was crushed into a cloud of blood mist. His entire body, divine soul, and even his golden core were all turned into powder and vanished into thin air. Zhang Yuzi is dead? Everyone was petrified. They stood there dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. Even Xiao Qingtan and the others couldn't believe it. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Xie Tingren's teeth chattered as she looked at Jiang Tian and ancestral patriarch True Dragon. Big deal. This is going to be a disaster. A direct disciple of the 1,000-Foot clan had died on the nameless island. With the clan leader's fiery temper and the strength of the 1,000-Foot Zhang clan, how could he swallow this humiliation? Perhaps everyone present, including Xie Yan, would not be able to get away with it. They would lose a layer of skin. As for the culprit behind all this, Jiang Tian? In everyone's eyes, he was like a dead man. Chapter 1370. How dare you kill people in my territory? Xiao Bing took a step forward, and his eyes were about to spit fire. With a loud shout, the profound iron armor clanged, and the blood-red robe was lifted up by the aura, fluttering like a flag. An earth-shattering aura filled the air above the island. The violent pressure caused the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. It caused everyone's breathing and heartbeat to stop. It was as if there was a huge rock weighing 1,000 pounds on their chests. So what if I killed you? Do you want to fight with me? Facing the pressure, Jiang Tian waved his paper fan calmly like a cool breeze. His long hair fluttered in the wind. Xiao Bing looked at the True Dragon Patriarch behind Jiang Tian with fear. His face turned red, white, and purple. Finally, he restrained his aura and said fiercely, "Since you are so arrogant, don't blame me for telling the truth when the head of the Zhang family blames me. When the time comes, the Zhang family will take action. Even if you are the son of the Jade Lake clan, you may not be able to survive. Brother, this man has repeatedly disrupted the order of the meeting. He is rude and taunting. He clearly wants to be the enemy of our army. How can we let him go?" Xiao Qingtan was flustered and exasperated. "The two of you, as well as the Xie clan, were rescued by my Xiao clan's army and received our protection. But now, you don't know the rules and brazenly kill people in my Xiao clan's territory, humiliating my Xiao clan's reputation. How dare you? Xiao Qingtan, I need your protection." "What a joke. You think too highly of yourself. Kong Teichu do things freely. I don't need your protection." Jiang Tian waved his folding fan and smiled faintly. "You are just a little ant. How would you know my ability? I am an existence that you can't reach. The small Dragon Gate world is just a small place. There are only a few big cats and small cats. I can do whatever I want. Who can stop me?" "So he is Kong Teichu. I have never heard of this person's name." Only then did everyone know Jiang Tian's name. Only Immortal Xianxia frowned slightly. He felt that he had heard this name before, but he couldn't remember where. How arrogant! Xiao Qingtan was so angry that his face turned red. "You're just a navy-tied refugee. If you meet Sun Bojun, the giant shark king, or the Jade Pool's experts, you'll probably run for your life. Since you have the ability and don't need our protection, then hurry up and leave." She directly ordered him to leave. Qin Shangqing, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, also smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist Taichu, our troops here are weak. It's like a vast pond that can't accommodate a giant whale, and a forest that can't accommodate a great rock. Your army should choose another path for the revolution." Xie Yan hurriedly advised, "General Xiao, Miss, young Master Jiang, and this old man are extremely important. We can't let them leave. Otherwise, you'll regret it." This was the True Dragon Patriarch. Back then, not to mention all of you, even your fathers were only subjects under his rule, generals under his command. But now you, Xiao Bing, have no respect for your elders and drove him away. In the future, if he reclaimed the Dragon Gate and regained control of the country, even if you saved Dragon Girl Ao Jiao and made a great contribution, he could still throw you into prison and never use you again. Xiao Bing turned a deaf ear and said nothing. His face was as calm as water. He didn't have the slightest intention of persuading Jiang Tian to stay. His attitude was very obvious. He was extremely dissatisfied with and even hated Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was still sitting upright. He said calmly, "Coincidentally, I don't want to be with you. Then let's part ways and go our separate ways. From now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other." Jiang Tian stood up, walked out of the island, and said indifferently, he said calmly, "But before we leave, I'll remind you that there are some loyal and righteous people among you who do have the heart to restore the country and save the people. Don't go to the 18-disc islands, lest you get killed." "Of course we're going. It's none of your business," Xiao Qingtan said sternly. Everyone else echoed her words. Jiang Tian shook his head in disappointment and said, "As the saying goes, good words can't persuade those who deserve to die. That's all I have to say. You're courting death. When you're in a desperate situation, don't ask me for help." Jiang Tian was not a kind person. He occasionally saved people, but he had to be willing to listen to him. Life was your own. You had to be responsible for the path you chose. What's more, the Xiao siblings and many of the cultivators in the faction who wanted to protect the emperor were not loyal and kind people. They said they were going to save people, but in fact, they just wanted to get the bargaining chip. They were even willing to kill people in order to seize the imperial power. Asking you for help? Who do you think you are? You dared to kill Zhang Yuzi. Just wait for the thunderous fury of the 1,000-feet tribe. Xiao Qingtan was so angry that her full chest heaved violently. She shouted at Jiang Tian's back. Then she looked at Xie Yan and said coldly, "Elder Xie, are we just going to let them go? Who will be responsible if the news is leaked?" Xie Yan was stuck in the middle. He said angrily, "Xiao Qing, what do you mean? Are you going to kill them? Are you going to kill me too?" The old man said again and again that they are my friends. They are reliable. You can't afford to offend them. Xiao Qingtan was ashamed and angry. She wanted to say something, but Xiao Bing shouted, "Enough, Qing, shut up." Seeing that the true dragon patriarch had also left with Jiang Tian, Xie Yan hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "General Xiao, Immortal Xianxia, fellow cultivators, thank you for saving my life a few days ago. I'm going to go with this old friend. Goodbye for now. Everyone, take care." Then, without waiting for them to ask him to stay, he looked at Xie Tingran and shouted, "Tingran, hurry up and go." Xie Tingran showed a look of disdain and said, "Ancestor, I'm not going. That old servant is only a gold core cultivator. The key is that young Master Jiang is too arrogant. We will die if we follow him." Xie Yan was so angry that he stomped his feet. He was so anxious that he said with his divine sense, "If you don't go, you will regret it. Don't underestimate that young Master Jiang. You will benefit greatly if you follow them." "I'm not going." Xie Tingran was ashamed and said angrily, "Ancestor, why did you say that he is my fiancé? Who does he think he is? He is just a Kanglin refugee, a mortal ant. How can he be worthy of me? I can't be with him. Otherwise, my reputation will be ruined." She glanced at Xiao Bing and said angrily, "Besides, he doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He actually allowed the evil servant to kill Zhang Yuzi. It is equivalent to putting our Xie family and even General Xiao into eternal damnation. You don't have to be with them. Say, Senior Xie, don't worry. I will take good care of Tingran. There will be no accidents." Xiao Bing moved and stood in front of Xie Tingran. There was a flash of light in his eyes as he promised. Xie Yan was stunned and suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Xiao Bing was suspicious. He was worried that young Master Jiang would leak the news, so he kept Xie Tingran as a hostage. "Well, thank you for your hard work, General Xiao." However, Xie Yan was an experienced and steady person in the end. He nodded without batting an eyelid, turned around, and flew in the direction Jiang Tian left. Immortal Xianxia stood up and asked with his divine sense, "Senior Xie, who is that old man in Sion?" Xie Yan just chased after him and did not answer. Soon, his figure disappeared in the dark night. "Who is that old man? He is in the gold core realm and is not weaker than General Xiao. He is so domineering that he even dared to kill Zhang Yuzi with one palm." Xiao Qingtan frowned. "Humph, Zhang Yuzi is nothing. In this generation of the Zhang family, only Zhang Taoyan's strength is not bad. Zhang Yuzi is just SOSO. Shui Qianxing said coldly, But that old man is really strange. I heard that he came from the Kanglin world. But the Kanglin world is very barren and almost no one can cultivate to the gold core realm. So what if he has cultivated to the gold core realm? I see that he is old and his chi and blood are declining. His eyes are cloudy. I am afraid that he is thousands of years old and his life is coming to an end. When it comes to a battle, he will definitely not be a match for the Zhang family. Qin Shangqing snorted disdainfully. In the cultivation world, the strong are respected. He relied on his background and powerful evil servants to suppress others. In the end, he is at a disadvantage. Like Xiao Bing, Shui Qianqing, and the others, when they encounter such a situation, they will wipe it out themselves. Young Master Qin, you are right. Xiao Qingtan had a look of favor on her face. She was as gentle as water. She quickly said, that Kong Teichu is the one who doesn't know the immensity of the world. Cultivators have to rely on themselves after all. They don't rely on outsiders. Besides, even if he is from the Kanglin world and has a Gold Core Realm follower, so what? Doesn't he know that there are hundreds of Gold Core Realm cultivators in the Dragon Gate world? Not to mention that the traders like Swordsman Fu Hai and the Giant Shark King have already become nascent soul heavenly lords. If he goes out, he won't have a chance to survive. After Jiang Tian left the Nameless Island, Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei took Long Yanan, followed by Patriarch True Dragon and Xie Yan. Jiang Tian smiled and said, Patriarch True Dragon. The loyal soldiers of the Dragon Gate world are just a motley crew. They can't take on such a great responsibility. After we take down this world, I'm afraid you will have to take charge of it yourself. We will follow your orders, Master. Patriarch True Dragon sighed and said in a serious and bleak tone. Master, where are we going now? Bai Zhe asked. To the 18 islands. Jiang Tian waved his sleeves and wrapped them up. He stepped into the air and disappeared. The next moment he was already 100 kilometers away. At this time, Xie Yan saw a hint of Jiang Tian's power for the first time and was shocked. Without any aircraft, he could fly 100 kilometers in the air. This was not an ordinary Gold Core Realm cultivator, but a late-stage Gold Core Realm Grand Perfected cultivator. The 18 islands were at least 30,000 miles away from the Nameless Island. Between the two islands, there were large and small islands scattered like stars in the sky. All along the way, Jiang Tian saw that some islands were covered in bones and corpses, some cities had smoke that shot into the sky, and the flames of war spread out continuously, and they'd already become cities of death. Jiang Tian saw that the refugees had lost their homes and were driving their boats on the sea like headless flies. Many ordinary refugees had no food or water. They had to sell their children to save their lives. Some even bartered children for food. Jiang Tian saw that some violent sea beasts and birds of prey that had yet to evolve were roaming about, attacking defenseless humans and demon cultivators indiscriminately, treating them as food. This world had become the most primitive and chaotic world. The strong were respected and the weak were like ants. The order had completely collapsed. Chapter 1371. Most of the time, Jiang Tian didn't care. Only the true dragon ancestral patriarch and Bai Zhe helped to suppress the monsters and save the refugees. It wasn't that he was heartless, but there were too many refugees. Hundreds of millions of humans and monsters of the dragon sect were homeless and it was impossible to save them. The only way to save them was to defeat the cultivators of Jade Lake and Hai Lan, kill the rebels of the dragon sect, and rebuild the dynasty. After flying 2,500 miles, they entered the war zone. Here, the rebels and the royalists clashed. Cultivators from both sides fought with each other, and fierce battles often broke out. A single attack from a golden core cultivator would cause thousands of people to die, turning them into meat paste and blood rain. The cultivators of the dragon sect were often at a disadvantage. They were suppressed by the rebels and the cultivators of Jade Lake and Hai Lan. In such a situation, Jiang Tian released his flying sword and killed thousands of people, saving the loyal cultivators of the dragon sect. Thank you for saving our lives, Senior. He's so powerful. Is he a golden core perfected cultivator? The rescued cultivators of the dragon sect knelt down in gratitude. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian and the others had already turned into a dazzling golden light and left without a word. They didn't stop at all. After passing through the war zone, they arrived at the territory of Hai Lan and Jade Lake. There was not much fighting in this place. The many islands and cities were orderly and heavily guarded. On the ocean, enormous warships that were 10 times larger than aircraft carriers floated and cruised like islands. In the sky, splendid flying boats, cloud towers, and islands were all heavily guarded, forming solid defense lines that were unbreakable like a dragnet. 2/3 of the area was under the control of Jade Lake and Hai Lan. However, these guards might be able to stop ordinary Foundation Establishment and Foundation Establishment cultivators, but how could they stop Jiang Tian? Jiang Tian cast an invisibility spell. He waved his sleeves and wrapped everyone up. With a single step, he crossed 1,000 miles and landed on the 18 island. The 18 islands were a few hundred miles wide. They were majestic and prosperous. There were many cities and buildings on the islands. The sky was a clear blue, like a blue crystal. There was never a trace of dark clouds. The sun was shining brightly, and when the gentle and bright sunlight shone down, there was not a speck of dust. On top of the hundreds and thousands of mountain peaks, pine trees were entwined with branches and leaves, revealing an ancient aura. Mountain peaks formed the Dragon Mountain Range, majestic and imposing. The mountain range spiraled upwards, gradually increasing in height. There were a total of 18 spirals, hence the name. In the deepest part of the mountain, there was a huge city in the sky that was floating in the clouds like a mirage. It made people think that they had arrived in the immortal realm. On the top floor of the 18-plate mountain range was the headquarters of the Ocean View Pavilion. According to the information, it was the location of the human furnace auction. The Seaview Pavilion was the largest trading company in the area occupied by the Jade Lake's sea waves. It was even more powerful and famous than the Cape Chamber of Commerce of the past. Many of the large islands and cities in the occupied areas had set up branches where large amounts of cultivation resources could be traded. These cultivation resources were not only from the Dragon Gate world, but also from the Hai Lan world and the Jade Lake world. In just a few years, they had developed to a spectacular level. Because the person behind him was the current Imperial Preceptor, Sun Bojun, the Ocean Cover Swordsman. No one dared to provoke him. The headquarters of the Seaview Pavilion above the 18 plates was even more magnificent. It floated in the clouds like a celestial palace. There were many large-scale formations shrouding it, and spiritual chi overflowed in all directions like clouds and mist. Not to mention the spirit herbs and grand medicines inside, even just sitting and walking inside would be greatly beneficial to cultivators. But Jiang Tian also found that the security here was very strict. The whole island was full of patrolling cultivators. Some of them were wearing armor, some were wearing Daoist robes. There were at least thousands of Foundation Establishment cultivators and hundreds of Golden Core cultivators. And this was only the surface. There were probably many half-step heavenly lords and nascent soul cultivators hiding in the dark, waiting for the rebels to sneak into their pockets and catch them like turtles in a jar. There were still a few days before the human furnace auction. There was not much news here, so Jiang Tian was not in a hurry. It will cost a lot to enter the Seaview Pavilion. The entrance ticket alone will cost hundreds of millions of crystals. Xie Yan said awkwardly. You are not the president of the Royal Chamber of Commerce. You must be rich. This is not a problem. Zhang Qianlei glanced around and asked. Xie Yan smiled bitterly. This place is completely ruled by the Hai Lan world and the Jade Lake world. They have issued their own currency system, which is inscribed with special runes. The crystals we use there are useless. That's easy. Let's rob them. Bai Zai's eyes greedily scanned the surrounding high-level cultivators, and he rubbed his fists, eager to give it a try. Well, Brother Bai Zai is right. Let's find a shop or a rich cultivator and rob them. The black-haired dog next to him also urged enthusiastically. Jiang Tian shook his head and said lightly, Not yet. It's not time yet. If we kill and steal, it's hard to avoid alerting the enemy. Let's go. Let's walk around. Jiang Tian made a gesture and touched Long Yanen's face gently. Master, why do I look different? Long Yanen suddenly felt the muscles on her face twitching. She took out a mirror and was shocked. Her mouth was crooked and her eyes were slanted. Her face was full of acne and looked like a toad. She had become extremely ugly. Not only did human cultivators avoid her, but even some half-human and half-demon cultivators were trembling with fear. This girl is so beautiful. On the other hand, there was a cultivator with the sea toad bloodline who bought a fresh flower from a store and held it in his mouth. He looked at her flirtatiously and threw flirtatious glances at her. However, Long Yanen was so disgusted that she vomited. Keep a low profile. Don't worry, it will only last for a month. After a month, the magic power will dissipate. If you cooperate with me and help me capture the reinforcements of the Hylon world, I will make you as beautiful as a flower. Jiang Tian had one hand behind his back while the other waved a folding fan. He walked on the street as if he was taking a stroll, and he spoke lazily. In fact, Jiang Tian had also changed Xie Yan's appearance. After all, he was one of the most powerful cultivators in this world, so he didn't want to be recognized. However, Xie Yan was mature and prudent. His mentality had been washed clean. Naturally, he would not take his appearance and image to heart. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian and Jinlong had used the secret art of qi concealing that Jiang Tian had taught them. They suppressed their cultivation to the foundation establishment level and even became ordinary people to avoid attracting attention. In your dreams. If my sister comes here, you will be no match for her. She is an overlord on the war god list of the immortal ruins. Even if you can kill a nascent soul heavenly lord, you might not be able to defeat her. When she noticed the strange and disgusted gazes of the surrounding cultivators, Long Yanen was angered to the point she almost fainted, and she wished for nothing more than to tear Jiang Tian into pieces to vent her anger. There was a strong smell of the sea in the air. Jiang Tian strolled on the first Pan Mountain and found that even the human cultivators here had some rust on their faces. This was because they had lived and fought in the sea for a long time. When Jiang Tian turned to a market on the first Pan Mountain, he found that this place was much more prosperous than the level 4 worlds such as the Heavenly Star World and the Chia World. It even surpassed the West Earth dimension. On both sides of the wide street, there were tall buildings and all kinds of shops selling cultivation resources. In the open space, there were also some stalls where many cultivators were picking and choosing. It was very lively. Sea pearl, 6-leaf seaweed, purple gold sea stone, deep sea cold iron. Jiang Tian scanned the area with his spiritual sense. His heart skipped a beat as he revealed a look of surprise. Chapter 1372. The cultivation resources in this place were very rich. This was especially so for water-type cultivation resources. There were various high-level ores and spiritual herbs, as well as the furs and demonic cores of various marine demonic beasts. They were all treasures and could be found everywhere. Their prices were extremely low. A decent foundation establishment demonic core could be exchanged for only a few thousand crystals. It was as if they were given away for free. In the Dragon Gate world, other than demonic cultivators and ordinary cultivators, there are more violent demonic beasts. There are many demonic beasts around almost every island. It's impossible to kill them all. Killing them to obtain cultivation resources is the usual practice of the cultivators in the Dragon Gate world. Patriarch True Dragon explained with his divine consciousness. The Dragon Gate world was a cultivation world where demonic cultivators were the main cultivators. And demonic cultivators had many paths. Some living beings might be humans and have a human form, but they had the bloodline of demonic beasts. Patriarch True Dragon and Bai Zhe were among them. They did not need to cultivate to the nascent soul stage. After the transformation process, they could appear as humans. Even Shui Qianxing, who was half human and half demonic, might have the appearance of a demonic beast, but his spiritual intelligence was extremely high. He was no different from a human. Humans who possessed the bloodline of demonic beasts or half-demonic beasts would be able to activate the hidden bloodline of demonic beasts in battle. Once they entered the gold core stage, they would be able to easily unleash their Dharma power. When they reached the nascent soul stage, their Dharma form was also closely related to the bloodline of demonic beasts. They would often appear in the form of demonic beasts. But there was also a group of ordinary humans who did not have the bloodline of demonic beasts. But they could still use many mystic techniques to forcefully absorb the blood essence of demonic beasts and refine their souls. They could reconstruct their own bloodline and create a Dharma form similar to that of demonic beasts. They could also unleash terrifying combat strength. This group was also demonic cultivators. Of course, in the Dragon Gate world, many ordinary human cultivators still cultivated according to ordinary cultivation techniques. Their aura, golden core, and Dharma form had nothing to do with demonic beasts. They were ordinary cultivators. In short, demonic cultivators were just a way to use the power of primitive demonic beasts. It was a special cultivation civilization, and not all of them evolved from beasts. Instead, there was a group of primitive demonic beasts that were savage and did not have much spiritual intelligence. They were bloodthirsty and violent. Although millions of years ago, they even shared a common ancestor with cultivators with innate demon-beast bloodlines, they still became the target of public criticism. Their demonic beast bloodline was the purest, and their combat ability was also the most magnificent. However, it was actually the most difficult for them to develop intelligence or take human form. They were cruel, bloodthirsty, and difficult to communicate with. Therefore, they became the greatest enemy of all the cultivation civilizations. These demonic beasts were also known as berserk demonic beasts. Such primitive and violent demonic beasts would usually not appear in the islands and cities where the cultivators of the Dragon Gate world gathered. They would often gather, live, and reproduce on primitive, desolate islands or in dark oceanic trenches, killing each other and ambushing human cultivators. Of course, demonic cultivators and ordinary human cultivators would also kill them and use their blood essence and soul to improve their battle prowess and cultivation. The Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures here are very expensive. Jiang Tian nodded his head and turned into a shop called Ocean Treasures Pavilion. He glanced at the many magical equipment on the shelves and pondered. In the first round, there was also a Sea View Pavilion branch. Its aura was the greatest, and it stood out like a crane among chickens. However, Ocean Treasures Pavilion was only slightly inferior. In this market, it was also very conspicuous and had many customers. Clearly, it was of a much higher class than the other shops and stalls. However, after Jiang Tian glanced at the Dharma artifacts on the shelves, he could not help but chuckle. Here, there was not a single true weapon or low-level numinous treasure. Most of them were ordinary Dharma artifacts. There was only one Dharma artifact flying sword. It was placed in a conspicuous position and was guarded by 5 or 6 Foundation establishment cultivators. No one was allowed to approach it, and they had set up layers of restrictions and shields that emitted resplendent light. Clearly, they treated it as the treasure of the shop. It's just a magical treasure, yet you're treating it so preciously. It's too shabby. Jiang Tian revealed a bitter smile and shook his head. Ultimately, the Dragon Gate cultivators are mainly demonic cultivators. Be it ordinary humans or demonic beasts, once they step onto the path of demonic cultivation, they will become bloodthirsty and violent. They are better at stimulating their own strength and developing their intelligence. Their ability to use external objects is much weaker. The true dragon patriarch bowed and explained. The decline of Dharma artifact refining in this world was not formed overnight, but gradually caused by the development of the demonic cultivation system. Also, there's one more thing. In the few years when Hai Lan and Jade Lake world invaded this world, the power of this world has gradually weakened. Next to him, Xie Yan also explained. True weapons and numinous treasures are not allowed to be traded publicly. They will confiscate them when they see them. Privately refining Dharma artifacts is also not allowed. Even if Dharma artifacts and Dharma artifacts are allowed to be traded, They are usually used for beauty, protection, strengthening, and flight. If you want to have a Dharma artifact with great destructive power, you have to add runes to it. Once you kill someone, you can immediately track the murderer. Yes. In the prosperous Dharma artifact refining civilization, there are even Dharma artifacts for civilian use and military use. Jiang Tian shook his head again and said, "The Hai Lan and Jade Lake World cultivators are equivalent to a ban on martial arts, weakening the local cultivators of the Dragon Gate. Only when one is strong and the other is weak can there be long-term stability. So this is all that is left. And this trash is sold for 100 million spirit stones. Damn it, this is robbery. I am the shopkeeper of this shop, Ouyang Yuan. Young man, are you buying or not? If you are not buying, then don't wander around here and make comments." At this time, an early-stage foundation establishment shopkeeper walked over, cupped his fists, and snorted in dissatisfaction. Jiang Tian only noticed this now. Many people around him looked at him in surprise. Obviously, his comments just now were too shocking. The few shopkeepers who looked like managers glared at Jiang Tian as if he had bullied his own mother. Jiang Tian did not have the intention to ruin the shopkeeper's business. He cupped his fists and said apologetically, "Ha, it's just a casual comment. Shopkeeper, please don't take it to heart. These things are too expensive and I can't afford them. I just want to take a look." The shopkeeper called Ouyang Yuan was dressed luxuriously and had an extraordinary bearing. His eyebrows were raised to the sky as he said arrogantly, "You are just a mortal. You're just a mere mortal. Do you think you have the right to comment on the magical treasures of our treasure seafood pavilion? Our things are trash. You are really ignorant. Who doesn't know that our refining skills are second only to the Sea View Pavilion and the Sea Corner Chamber of Commerce? What do you mean by ignorant? He's practically blind. Ridiculous. A mere mortal ant dares to comment on our treasure seafood pavilion. We are open for business. This is our shopkeeper. We won't lower ourselves to your level. Otherwise, we would have killed you. All refiners have to be at the foundation establishment stage and have extremely strong spirit and true essence. Only then can they control flames, remove impurities, and inject spirituality. He is just a mere mortal. What does he know about refining?" Many shopkeepers were ridiculing him. Even some busybodies who were originally customers also insulted him. Jiang Tian was just casually strolling around to understand the situation here. He had a reason for the incident just now, so he had done his best to tolerate it. But now that he was being ridiculed like this, it would be a waste of the refining skills he had accumulated in his previous life if he did not slap them in the face. Besides, if he wanted to get an entrance ticket to the Sea View Pavilion and enter without attracting attention, he would need some special notes and crystal bills. He also needed to make money. Jiang Tian leisurely walked out of the Treasure Seafood Pavilion. He set up a stall in the open space across the street and wrote a signboard, "Refining on the spot." While Jiang Tian was strolling around, he calculated the prices of the magical artifacts and the materials needed to refine them. The price of a magical artifact was 5 to 6 times the price of the materials. It was even 8 to 9 times the price of the materials. This price difference was too outrageous. In any normal cultivation civilization, the price of a magical artifact was only 1 to 2 times the price of the materials. Such a huge difference in price was the reason why the refining civilization of this world had declined and why there were too few refiners. Therefore, Jiang Tian's signboard was that he would refine magical artifacts for others. The price was 2 to 3 times the price of the materials needed. In this way, Jiang Tian only needed to refine a few magical artifacts and he would be able to earn all the crystal bills needed for the entrance ticket. Of course, he could not casually refine a true artifact in this place. Otherwise, Jiang Tian would be able to eat until his belly was round after refining a true artifact. Is this guy crazy? He wants to refine a magical artifact. Does he have the ability? Seeing Jiang Tian setting up a stall to refine artifacts, the crowd was very disdainful. You want to compete with me? You are asking for humiliation. Especially the shopkeeper of the Treasure Seafood Pavilion, Ouyang Yuan, who was too lazy to even look at him. He directly walked upstairs. Chapter 1373. After Jiang Tian set up the stall, there were quite a few cultivators watching. After all, there were very few blacksmiths here. However, they only pointed and discussed for a while before leaving. Then, another group of people came over and pointed. Jiang Tian did not panic. He just sat cross-legged on the stall and meditated. Bai Zhe and the big black dog took Xie Yan for a stroll, leaving only Zhenlong and Long Yanan to wait by his side. Jiang Tian was very clear about the thoughts of cultivators. The failure rate of refining was very high. Especially for Jiang Tian, this unknown stranger, they didn't trust him even more. And once he failed, those priceless refining materials would be destroyed in an instant. They were not willing to take the risk. Jiang Tian stood up calmly and added another line of words on the signboard. If the refining fails or does not reach the required grade, the materials will be returned double. Then, Jiang Tian patted the sky-devouring demon gourd and took out a few magic treasures. He placed them on the stall and sat down again. Boom! Seeing Jiang Tian write this line of words, the surrounding cultivators were instantly in an uproar. They looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. A tall and burly foundation establishment cultivator took a few steps forward and cupped his fists. Fellow Daoist, may I ask if you only charge twice the price for refining? Also, if the refining fails, you have to return twice the materials? That's right. It's not like you don't know how to read. Jiang Tian pointed at the magic treasures on the stall and said with a calm smile, if I fail, I will take these magic treasures as compensation. Thank you, Senior. The male cultivator's eyes shone brightly as he looked greedily at the many magic treasures on the ground. Then he took out a fist-sized piece of dark purple essence iron from his storage bag and said, this is a piece of high-grade purple gold sea iron, worth 100 million crystals. It can be used to forge 3 high-grade magic treasures, dragon-scale darts. Senior, can you do it? Bullshit. Your purple gold sea iron can only be considered middle grade. After removing the impurities, it can only be used to forge 1 dragon scale dart. It's not even enough. And it can only be middle grade. Lei Yongming, the two of you don't have the ability to find materials, yet you use inferior materials to refine high-grade magical equipment. Do you have any shame? Could it be a trap to blackmail us? Little brother, don't agree to it. He's a scam. You're just bullying other people because they're unfamiliar with this place. Since you can't get them to refine weapons, you're trying to extort money from them. How evil! After Jiang Tian wrote down the words, if the artifact forging fails, double the compensation, more and more cultivators gathered. There were now 3 layers of cultivators inside and 3 layers of cultivators outside. There were at least several hundred cultivators there. Some were even standing on their flying swords to observe the situation from afar. At this moment, after hearing Lei Yongming's words, everyone immediately began to ridicule Lei Yongming. Faced with everyone's criticism, the Foundation establishment cultivator called Lei Yongming's face flushed red and a trace of shame appeared on his face. He hurriedly cupped his fists and smiled bitterly. Little brother, this brother definitely has no intention of harming you. I didn't make it clear. If you have heavenly sea crystals, you can add some to increase the strength of the darts. You can still refine high-grade darts. Of course, I won't take your materials for free. I'll give you 200 million crystals as a reward. I don't have any heavenly sea crystals. Jiang Tian shook his head. Then it seems that you can't refine it. Lei Yongming revealed a deep disappointment. He put away his purple gold sea iron and turned to leave. Jiang Tian waved his folding fan and said casually, who said that middle-grade purple gold sea iron can't be refined into high-grade magical equipment? Who said that you have to add heavenly sea crystals? As soon as these words came out, there was a dead silence. Everyone was shocked and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief as if they had seen a ghost. He's crazy. How can such a small piece of middle-grade purple gold sea iron be refined into a high-grade dragon scale dart? It's more likely to be refined 10 times more. Or as old Lei said, add heavenly sea crystals to increase the hardness. Otherwise, it's impossible that he can't refine it. How can it be easy to improve the attributes of materials beyond the grade? Even the top craftsmen of the Treasure Seafood Pavilion and the Seaview Pavilion can't do it. After a full 10 seconds, the crowd burst into an uproar. Everyone was discussing and no one was optimistic about Jiang Tian. Old Lei, don't let him refine it. This kid obviously doesn't know how to refine. He's just using your stuff to practice. What if he breaks it? Are you really going to take his compensation? What if he has some powerful cultivator behind him and you can't get it? Some warm-hearted cultivators began to persuade Lei Yongming. Yes. The old man saw that although this young man's cultivation is ordinary, the old man behind him is not simple. If he breaks it, he won't pay you double the compensation as agreed. He won't even give you a single hair. Someone touched his chin and said calmly, "Don't panic, don't panic. Let me think." Lei Yongming was a bit tempted at first, but then he looked at Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon and hesitated. This purple gold sea iron was something he had obtained by killing several Foundation Establishment Stage sea demons and going through untold hardships. He even lost 3 Foundation Establishment Stage fellow Daoists. The price was too heavy and he couldn't afford to lose anything. It's just a few Dharma treasures. If young master fails, we'll pay you double. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon grunted. True. Don't worry. Anyway, there are a lot of cultivators from the Jade Lake and the Chiu family here. If they dare to do anything, we'll report it. I don't think a Foundation Establishment cultivator can stop them. Someone encouraged Lei Yongming. Okay, I'll take the risk. Lei Yongming finally gritted his teeth and took out the purple gold sea iron again. He handed it to Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon carefully and said sincerely, "Be careful. Fellow Daoist, you must be careful. I only have this piece of violet gold sea iron, and I can't allow anything to happen to it." Meanwhile, someone in the crowd suddenly frowned and exclaimed, "Lei Yongming, something is wrong. He said he's going to make a Dharma treasure. Why doesn't he have a furnace or a hammer?" "Yeah, he's not a liar, is he? Lei Yongming, get it back. Don't let it be taken by someone else." Everyone cried out in alarm. Oh no. Lei Yongming was also startled and was about to ask for it. Jiang Tian smiled leisurely and said, "I don't need a furnace or a hammer to make a Dharma treasure. It's just a Dharma treasure. I can get it easily." Fire. Jiang Tian flicked his finger. A ball of true fire of the red sparrow shot out from his fingertip and wrapped around the purple gold sea iron. What kind of fire is that? The purple gold sea iron has started to melt. Is it an eternal flame? Everyone exclaimed in unison, revealing a deeply shocked expression. Even Lei Yongming stopped and gulped as he stared at Jiang Tian's fire. The purple gold sea iron was produced in the deep sea and had been refined under high pressure. It was extremely cold but also extremely tough and stable. Normal fire couldn't melt it even if it was burned for 100 days. Only an eternal flame could do that. Furnace, form. Jiang Tian flicked his finger. In a blink, the true fire of the red sparrow changed 9 times and formed an ancient furnace. The purple gold sea iron was completely melted and then divided into 3 balls to form the shape of a dart. It had surpassed the 30 days of hard work of a top Dharma treasure craftsman. Thunder. Then, Jiang Tian waved his hand. His words were the law. Inside his lower abdomen, the thunder slaughter god body was roaring. 81 lightning strikes fell like a storm, forming a thunder hammer that entered the furnace, hammering and quenching the furnace. In the end, Jiang Tian said, "The Dharma treasure is formed." Boom! With a loud bang, the lightning dissipated and the flames in the furnace were extinguished. Under everyone's shocked gazes, 3 darts that looked like iron nails floated in the void. They were dark gold in color and shone brightly. The golden lines intertwined to form an incomparably gorgeous pattern. It was as though there was a layer of tiny dragon scales on the surface of the darts. Now that the Dharma treasure was formed, its ferocious aura shrouded a radius of 10 miles. The entire market was shrouded in a chilling killing intent and everyone could sense it. Their spirits froze. At that moment, only a dozen seconds had passed and it was only the time for a sentence. The moment the dragon scale darts were created. The surrounding cultivators and even the cultivators in the other shops were stunned and filled with disbelief. Is that the legendary Dharma treasure creation? There was dead silence in the sky and on the ground. Suddenly, a cultivator said with a hoarse voice. Chapter 1374. The refinement of magical equipment by cultivators was fundamentally different from the refinement of steel and iron by ordinary people. The refinement of steel and iron had at most a few dozen steps, and the temperature inside the furnace was usually kept constant. But when cultivators refined magical equipment, they had to mix dozens or even hundreds of raw materials together. The furnace temperature would change 3 to 5 times every second, and the temperature of over 1,000 degrees Celsius would drop to below zero in an instant. When to put in the hundreds of raw materials, how to change the furnace temperature every second, how to grasp the timing of quenching, even the simplest flying sword had to go through hundreds of procedures before it could be successfully refined. Therefore, the control runes of the crafting furnace were as complicated as the main control rune arrays of a crystal warship. Even the top refiners of this world, even the living fossils of the Sea-Viewing Pavilion and the Oceanic Treasures Tower, would need several months of hard work to refine a piece of magical equipment. If they wanted to refine a spirit treasure, they would need a year or even several years of hard work. As for a true artifact, it would take 60 years to refine. The most important thing was that no one had been able to refine a true artifact in the past 1,000 years. Artifact creation with a thought. It was rumored that this kind of refining technique only existed in Hylon, the ruins of immortality, and other higher-level worlds. No one was in control of this world. For a moment, tens of thousands of telepathic thoughts were transmitted rapidly in the air. The news spread throughout the entire market in the blink of an eye, even to the cities of the second and third boards. Tens of millions of cultivators were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. Artifact creation with a thought, how is this possible? Many of the higher-ups, managers, and workers of the Oceanic Treasures Tower were dumbfounded as if they had seen a ghost. As for the manager of the Oceanic Treasures Tower, Ouyang Yuan, he rushed to the window and stared at the dragon scale dart floating in front of Jiang Tian, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. It's over. Let alone opening a store, even if this kid sets up a stall, we won't be able to support him. One of the higher-ups murmured. This is impossible. Artifact creation with a thought. Only the legendary king of refining can perform such a thing. Ouyang Yuan jumped up and said in exasperation, this is definitely not a real dragon scale dart. This is just a clumsy imitation. Even the Grandmaster blacksmiths in our main store can't refine it. The other higher-ups also came to their senses. That's right. It was still possible for this young man to forge a magical weapon in a short period of time. After all, a Grandmaster craftsman had a profound understanding of the art of crafting. There were precedents for someone who could achieve crafting in 7 steps and 1 sentence. But the dragon scale dart was a piece of magical equipment. Furthermore, it was powerful and had complex runes. It was one of the more difficult artifacts to refine. Identifying materials, quenching, purifying through 9 cycles of mystical flame, pulling out the embryo, sealing the talisman, lightning tribulation, and finally completing the artifact. This series of complex processes was something that even a top-notch blacksmith wouldn't be able to accomplish in one go. It would take at least a month of hard work. However, Jiang Tian's success with the Psyche tool was like a legend. That's right. This kid is just a clumsy imitation. He definitely doesn't have 10% of the power of the dragon scale dart. An old appraiser in a green robe was also alarmed. He walked out of the inner hall, looked down at Jiang Tian from upstairs, and said in a cold voice, Jiang Tian. Furthermore, his patterns are indeed slightly different from ours. Most people won't be able to tell the difference. Elder Hu, did you see that? These cultivators can't discover us. All the customers have run away. He's starting to refine artifacts. If this goes on, our business will be seriously affected. Ouyang Yuan said anxiously. He wasn't lying. At this time, Lei Yongming had already paid 200 million crystal stones to Jiang Tian and was happily introducing him to everyone. Almost all the cultivators were alarmed. They walked out of the shops and gathered in front of Jiang Tian. They took out their materials and asked Jiang Tian to refine artifacts for them. They even argued with each other and raised the price by 3 times. Elder Hu waved his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. He sneered and said, "That's easy. Expose his lies." 2 kinds of dragon scale dart collide at supersonic speed. As he spoke, he walked out of the seafood tower and went to the top of the crowd. He said coldly, "This kid is fishing for fame. He's using shoddy materials. This is a fake dragon scale dart. Don't be fooled." "What?" Lei Yongming panicked. "It's a praiser, Elder Hu. Let's get out of the way. There's a change." The originally chaotic and crowded crowd immediately separated like a tide, leaving a space. Some people even bowed deeply to Elder Hu. Obviously, they respected him very much. At this time, Ouyang Yuan also came. He took out a dragon scale dart and handed it to Lei Yongming. "Fellow cultivator Lei, this is the real dragon scale dart. You can compare it carefully. See if there's any difference." Lei Yongming did a simple comparison and found that the runes were slightly different. He immediately turned pale and frowned. "It's really different. What's going on? What else could it be? You've been fooled. He's only refining an inferior one. It might not even be a Dharma artifact." Ouyang Yuan glanced at the crowd and said calmly, "Fellow cultivators, if you want to buy a Dharma artifact, especially if you want to commission a Dharma artifact, you must come to us, a 1,000-year-old shop." He couldn't just pick up a sesame seed and throw away a watermelon just for a little bit of profit. Otherwise, if the material is destroyed, who can you ask for justice? Lei Yongming was heartbroken. He said pitifully, "Young Master Jiang, the refining failed. Can you compensate me as promised?" Of course, he was not afraid of Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian had the support of a true dragon ancestral patriarch who seemed to be unfathomable, so he didn't offend him on the spot. Why did the refining fail? Jiang Tian glanced at Ouyang Yuan and Elder Hu. He sneered and said, "Do you think I've failed just because you said so? What kind of logic is that?" "Little brother, don't underestimate this small dragon scale dart. It's as complicated as a flying sword." Old Mr. Hu smiled and said, "There are 18 strengthening runes, 13 speed runes, 3 wind runes and 2 space-breaking runes on it. These runes are extremely complicated. They are the crystallization of the wisdom of many refining masters over thousands of years. There can't be any mistakes. Since it's different from your runes, does it mean that the refining failed?" Jiang Tian said with a mocking smile. "Of course." Mr. Hu flicked his sleeves and said proudly with the demeanor of a great appraiser, with his eyes on top of his head, "Ignorant boy. Do you know that refining artifacts, especially inscribing runes, is a delicate job? Once the slightest mistake is made, the Dharma treasure will become a Dharma artifact and a Dharma artifact will become an ordinary Dharma artifact." He softened his tone and said with a smile, "However, I think your fire and thunder arts are not bad. You might not be trying to cheat me, but you're just a newborn calf that isn't afraid of tigers. If you're loyal, I'm willing to take you as my disciple and teach you the supreme art of refining artifacts. I'll also pay for your compensation. What do you think?" As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian with envy. "Say yes. Kid, this old mister who is a refining master, the disciple of perfected cultivator Chenyan of the artifact sect. If you become the disciple of a refining master, you'll be able to enjoy endless glory and wealth for the rest of your life. Even those golden core perfected cultivators, sect masters, city lords and island lords will have to respect you. Congratulations, young Master Jiang. I'll treat you tonight. Let's go to the Heavenly Ocean restaurant and have a good meal. If you refine artifacts for me in the future, I'll give you a 50% discount. Why are you hesitating? Why are you still hesitating?" The Heavenly Ocean restaurant will be merciful if they don't punish you for disrupting the market and selling shoddy products. That's right. Elder who is broad-minded and magnanimous. Shopkeeper Ouyang is also kind-hearted. Everyone started to talk. All right, let's keep it simple. I don't put on airs. Kowtow to me 3 times and I'll consider you my disciple. Mr. Hu stood proudly with his hands behind his back. His posture was very lofty. He also showed a smile and silently praised himself for his wit. Defeating Jiang Tian was not very meaningful. Instead of intensifying the conflict, he had easily eliminated a competitor and gained a useful talent. Chapter 1375. You dare to call yourself an old man in front of me and ask me to kowtow to you as my master? Bah, I think it's more appropriate to call you an old man. Jiang Tianan sat as still as a statue. He sneered and said, "That's right. You want to be my master with just you alone? That little bit of cultivation of yours is trash to the extreme, and you still call it the supreme Tao of refining? You're really a frog at the bottom of a well. You don't know how vast the world is. I won't hide it from you. In this world, no one is qualified to be my master when it comes to refining. In fact, your master, true Lord Chen, doesn't even have the right to hold the charcoal stove for me. He's not even fit to be my servant." With every word Jiang Tian said, Elder Hu and Ouyang Yuan's faces turned colder and the anger in their eyes burned brighter. The noise at the scene also quieted down. After Jiang Tian finished speaking, Yi Zichen looked at Jiang Tian. Elder Hu and Ouyang Yuan's faces were so cold that a layer of frost could be scraped off. Their eyes were almost spitting fire. The entire scene was deathly silent to the point a falling needle could be heard. Everyone was flabbergasted, and they were completely petrified like clay or wood sculptures. "You dare to insult me, perfected Lord Chen? Are you courting death?" Ouyang Yuan was so angry that he wanted to kill Jiang Tian on the spot with a wave of his hand from a few foundation establishment cultivators. Elder Hu raised his hand and stopped them. He gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Very good. Young man, your words are sharp. In the Dragon Gate world, it's been a long time since such an arrogant young man appeared in the refining industry. In fact, he hated Jiang Tian even more than Ouyang Yuan. Perfected Lord Chen was his master. Jiang Tian scolding and humiliating him like this was like slapping him in the face. But Elder Hu and Ouyang Yuan were different. He was a refiner and an appraiser. And a refiner master naturally had his pride. Since the other party humiliated them in refining, they would fight back fiercely in refining. What's the point of killing him? Would killing him be able to prove that he was spouting bullshit and making irresponsible remarks? Can we pick up our dignity that was trampled on the ground by him? He glared at Jiang Tian and said in a cold voice, "Don't worry. Since you said that your refining skills are high and you didn't make any mistakes, then let's have a competition with our genuine dragon scale darts. Dare I ask, do you dare to agree?" "Why wouldn't I dare?" Jiang Tian gently waved his folding fan. He was at ease and full of confidence. That cocky look of his could infuriate people to death. "I just broke your darts. Don't feel bad about it. It's still a magical equipment worth 1 billion crystals. Fuck you." Ouyang Yuan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Mr. Hu was so angry that his hands were trembling. He was extremely depressed. Shouldn't we be the ones saying that? You stole my lines. Mr. Hu suppressed his anger and made an obeisance to Lei Yongming. "Let me borrow your fake dragon scale dart for a supersonic collision experiment. Of course, yours will be damaged, but you don't have to worry. I can compensate you double, and it's the real deal." "No problem." Lei Yongming naturally didn't hesitate and immediately handed over the 3 dragon scale darts. He didn't forget to kindly remind Jiang Tian, "Young Master Jiang, you can't do it. Don't humiliate yourself. He is a refining master. It's not too late to regret it now." Jiang Tian knew that he didn't have his own ideas, so he didn't take it to heart. He smiled indifferently and said, "I have to compete with him. He's courting death. He's going to lose his reputation. He can't blame others. He won't cry until he sees the coffin. He only has himself to blame. Many onlookers sneered. In the refining circle, of course, there were various testing methods, as well as a lot of testing equipment and instruments. However, it was often time-consuming and difficult to come to a conclusion in a short time. As for the collision detection method, it was the simplest, crudest, and most effective method of detection. Two magical treasures exerted the same amount of magical power or kinetic energy. Through the sound of collision, magical power fluctuations, flames, and other external manifestations, especially the damage and wear after the collision, one could clearly judge the strength, hardness, speed, lethality, and other aspects of the magical treasures. Since it's a collision testing method, you shouldn't activate the magical treasures of both sides. It's not fair. You should use a collider. When Elder Hu flicked his finger and threw out the two dragon scale darts, a slightly mocking voice came. A middle-aged cultivator at the peak of the foundation building stage came over on a sword. He stood in the air and looked at Elder Hu with a smile. This cultivator had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He was in high spirits, but his 3 strands of beard and hair had been roasted by the fire until they were slightly dry and yellow. His face was full of charcoal ash, and the color of dust was extremely dense. There were specks of dust on his work clothes, and there were also a few big holes in them. It was obvious that he often used the furnace to refine weapons, and his actions were wild and unruly. Greetings, Grandmaster Lin Qin. However, nobody dared to underestimate him. Even Elder Hu and Ouyang Yuan bowed deeply to show their respect. So, he's Lin Qin, the new master of the true fire tower and the new grandmaster of refining. Someone exclaimed. Lin Qin, the new grandmaster of refining, created a superior quality spiritual treasure 3 years ago, which shocked the entire Dragon Gate world. He's now on par with Grandmaster Qinyan of the Oceanic Treasures Tower. Everybody looked at him with admiration. Many cultivators greeted and befriended him through telepathic communication. Although the most important thing for a cultivator was their own cultivation and combat ability, magical treasures were also very important in a real battle. More protective magical treasures were more often than not an extra life. Sometimes, many offensive magical treasures could increase one's combat ability rapidly. They were like great cheats. Therefore, refiners, array masters, and talisman masters were the most popular figures in the world of cultivators, just like alchemists. They were highly sought after by cultivators. Elder Hu, young Master Jiang, do you think my theory is reasonable? Lin Qin stood in the air with his hands behind his back. He nodded at Jiang Tian in a friendly manner and asked with a smile. Of course. Thank you, Grandmaster Lin Qin. Elder Hu bowed hurriedly and flicked his fingers. His primordial qi guided the 2 dragon scale darts into the air. Jiang Tian also nodded slightly. Grandmaster Lin Qin is like a wild crane. He doesn't like to fight for fame and fortune. He's always been fair. This is a fair duel. Everybody nodded and looked at the sky nervously and expectantly. Lin Qin had always been an indifferent person. He was obsessed with refining and did not care about worldly affairs. He was known as the weapon addict and did things according to his personal preferences. Sometimes, he was happy to refine weapons for others. Even if it took years of hard work, he would not take a single cent. He even had to pay with some expensive materials. Sometimes, it was a simple refining task, but the customer's personality did not suit him. Even if he paid 10 billion crystals, he would not even look at it. Therefore, although his refining skills were extraordinary and his true fire tower had 100 years of history, he could barely maintain his business. Sometimes, he could not even make ends meet and did not have a single branch. He was not like Treasure's Seafood Tower and Seaview Pavilion, which were well run and had branches all over the islands and cities. They had even evolved into huge trading companies based on their businesses. They made a lot of money every day and made a lot of money. Good darts. Lin Qin scanned the dragon scale darts of Treasure's Seafood Tower with his divine sense. His pupils constricted and he showed a look of admiration. These dragon scale darts of Treasure's Seafood Tower are made with the most authentic dragon scale scattering technique. and it's made by Grandmaster Celestial Flame. Dragon Scale Scattering. Grandmaster Celestial Flame. Everybody was shocked. Grandmaster Lin Qin's eyes are indeed sharp and insightful. Elder Hu and Yang Yuan showed a look of pride. Dragon Scale Scattering was a secret technique of Treasure's Seafood Tower. When refining some of the simpler basic components, they would use the dragon scale scattering technique to cover the surface of the artifact with a layer of dragon scale-like structure without destroying many of the runes. Using the principles of bionics, the components would become stronger and stronger. Nails made with the same raw materials would be strengthened by the dragon scale scattering technique at least 5 times stronger. And the most frightening thing was, the dragon scale scattering technique was created by Grandmaster Celestial Flame 200 years ago when he observed flood dragons swimming in the deep sea. He observed the dragon scales, dragon's shape, dragon's form, and dragon's intent and dragon's might. After that, this method of refining weapons gradually spread out and was perfected continuously. It was carried forward to perfection. It could be said that the dragon scale darts were named after Grandmaster Celestial Flame's dragon scale scattering technique. Grandmaster Celestial Flame was the founder of this type of darts. Too ruthless. Such a bully. Elder Hu is actually using the dragon scale darts personally made by Grandmaster Celestial Flame to compete. Isn't this the same as rubbing young Master Jiang on the ground? A cultivator laughed disdainfully. If it were a magical equipment personally made by Elder Hu or other refining masters, then young Master Jiang might have the strength to fight. But this was made by Grandmaster Celestial Flame himself. The dragon scale darts made by him must be of the highest quality among magical equipment. How could he possibly win? Chapter 1376. You can't blame Elder Hu. That kid was too full of himself. He said that the Celestial Flame Grandmaster wasn't fit to be his disciple. Did you hear that? Is that something a human would say? He deserves to be beaten to the ground. This kid is young and impetuous. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It's good to temper his spirit. Otherwise, he'll cause even more trouble. He's just a boastful fanatic. He even dares to disrespect the Celestial Flame Grandmaster. He's looking down on the entire Dragon Gate world. Some cultivators couldn't stand Jiang Tian's behavior. They felt that Jiang Tian deserved to be humiliated. Lin Qin grabbed the dragon scale dart that Jiang Tian had refined. He frowned and rubbed it a few times. After scanning it with his divine sense, he said after a long time, "Strange, strange. It's too strange." What's strange? Did this kid refine it carelessly? Did he pass it off as a shoddy one? Grandmaster Lin Qin, please give us a straightforward answer. The crowd urged. They were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. Of course, his refining is completely unorthodox. There are many runes that I've never seen or heard of before. Elder Hu swung his sleeves arrogantly and snorted disdainfully. These runes are indeed different from the ones I've seen. But how should I put it? There's a hint of natural Dao. Lin Qin scratched his oily scalp and flicked the dandruff on his fingers. His gaze never left Jiang Tian's dragon scale dart. Grandmaster Lin Qin? Natural Dao? You can't say that. That's a charm that only a true artifact or a doctrine artifact would have. Yang Yuan was instantly enraged. He shouted impatiently, "Stop talking nonsense. You don't have to talk nonsense. Just activate the collider and start colliding. We'll know whether it's a dragon or a worm." Grandmaster Lin Qin, please. Elder Hu was dissatisfied with Lin Qin's evaluation of Jiang Tian's dragon scale dart. Shouldn't you be degrading him? Natural Dao? Alright. Grandmaster Lin Qin's face turned serious. He patted his storage bag and 2 identical Dharma artifacts flew out. Collision launchers. The 2 colliding launchers, like heavy cannons, floated in the air and gradually distanced themselves from each other. Finally, they stood face to face at a distance of 1 kilometer. Under the command of Elder Hu, everyone retreated several kilometers. Yang Yuan even set up layers of defensive rune arrays around the two colliding launchers in case the magical equipment exploded and hurt the innocent. This was the first time for many cultivators to observe such a thrilling collision test. They couldn't help but look excited as they whispered to each other and discussed animatedly. How many strikes do you think this young Master Zhang's darts can withstand? 3 times at most. You can't even take it once. Do you know how hard the dragon scale darts made by the craftsmen of Celestial Flame sect are? That was a supreme-grade magic treasure. I've heard that someone once destroyed a spiritual-level flying sword with a Daybreak Flame Grandmaster's dragon scale dart. It's too scary. Let's retreat further away. It's not as simple as bending, it's an explosion. Lin Qin flicked his fingers, and 2 darts were inserted into the nozzle of the collision launcher. He said in a clear voice, he announced loudly, to maintain fairness, the launcher is now equipped with the same dose of explosive crystals. The speed is also adjusted to the same gear, 3 times the speed of sound. If you're still worried, you can check it. That's unnecessary. We believe in Grandmaster Lin Qin. Hurry up and launch. Quite a few cultivators urged him loudly. Almost all the cultivators present were in the building foundation stage or above. They all had powerful spiritual senses. How could they fake it? Let's hit it. With his hands behind his back, Elder Hu raised his chin high enough to touch the sky. He glanced at Jiang Tian from the corner of his eyes and sniffed. Let this boy know what a real grandmaster of refining is. Yang Yuan crossed his arms in front of his chest, his face beaming with pride. He seemed to be looking at the launcher in the sky, but in fact, his mind was focused on Jiang Tian. When the shoddy dragon scale darts were bombed, he didn't want to miss any of the shock, embarrassment, and shame on Jiang Tian's face. Begin. Lin Qin activated his divine sense, causing the 2 colliding launchers to rumble and tremble. Many array patterns were activated simultaneously, flashing with dazzling light. The launcher compartment was scorched red by the rapidly burning crystals, exuding a terrifying wave of arcane energy. The 2 darts were also slowly rotating in the launcher compartment. Suddenly, a ring of clouds appeared in front of the 2 darts and kept rippling. It was the sound barrier. The 2 darts instantly broke the sound barrier and kept accelerating, as if the surrounding space was being torn apart. Under the terrifying speed of 10 times the sound barrier, the distance of 1 kilometer was quickly swallowed. The 2 darts quickly collided with each other. Before everyone could hear the sound, they saw a colorful ball of light suddenly expand. Then, something was torn apart and shot out. The pieces hit the defense rune array, producing cracking noises. Until then, they finally heard the deafening sound of the collision, the sound of high-speed friction, and the sound of one of the darts exploding. It's exploded. Young Master Zhang's darts didn't even survive 1 collision before they were blown apart by the real deal of the treasure's seafood pavilion. I wasn't wrong, was I? 1 collision and it would explode. That's too lame. I thought he was some expert with a unique skill. He could drive red fire, condense a furnace, and create a weapon with a thought. He was quite cool. What's the use of looking good? What's the use of fancy? Reality has proven that it was all a bluff. How can he be called a refiner? But that's right. Although the dragon scale darts of our treasure's seafood pavilion are a bit hard, ordinary magical darts can at least withstand 3 to 5 collisions. Isn't it too shameful to explode in 1 collision? Jiang Tian's mysterious and unfathomable image collapsed in everyone's hearts. He was completely reduced to a person who only knew how to fish for fame. It exploded in 1 collision. It's even weaker than I thought. Yang Yuan bit his tongue hard to hold back his laughter as he looked at Jiang Tian's face. He didn't expect this madman to be so thick-skinned. There was no expression on his face at all. His eyes seemed to be polished from black crystals, shining brightly as he stared at the sky thoughtfully. Keep pretending. Keep pretending. I'm going to take my revenge and mock you. Yang Yuan was in high spirits and was about to mock him when 2 screams came from the sky. It was Lei Yongming. During the collision, Some of the nail fragments hit the defensive array glyphs and bounced off, not far from him. Although the magical equipment was destroyed, the materials could be used again. He activated his true origin and raised his hand to grab the fragments. The purple gold frost iron used to make the darts was not easy to come by. Besides, it was his in the first place. He didn't want to waste it. What he didn't know was that the darts had accumulated a lot of heat during the high-speed rotation and collision. As if they were burning red, a string of blisters appeared on his fingers. Even though he was a building foundation stage cultivator, he couldn't withstand it when he was caught off guard. That was the reason why the first scream was heard. The second scream was because Lei Yongming discovered, to his horror, that the fragment on the ground was the bottom part of the dart. On the bottom part of the dart, there was a small line of words that read, "Made by the Treasure's Sea Tower." It was made by the Treasure's Sea Tower. Could it be that the darts that were blown apart during the high-speed collision were the dragon-scale darts of the Treasure's Sea Tower? They were the dragon-scale darts made by the craftsmen of the Celestial Flame clan. Lei Yongming was dumbfounded. He stood there in a daze and stared at the fragments of the dart in his hand. He even forgot the excruciating pain on his fingertips. His mouth was wider and wider. His tongue was shivering crazily inside his mouth, but he couldn't say anything. "Fellow cultivator Lei, what's wrong?" Many cultivators noticed Lei Yongming's strange behavior. They gathered around him or scanned him with their telepathic thoughts. Lei Yongming blinked his eyes. His Adam's apple moved, but he couldn't say anything for a long time. He could only point at the fragments of the dragon-scale darts with his thick and short fingers. Half a second later, everybody fell into the same state of shock and speechlessness as he did. They looked at each other. No one dared to believe what they had just seen. In their minds, the supreme and godlike grand craftsman of Celestial Flame had been defeated. He had been utterly defeated. "Fellow cultivator Lei, you don't have to scream. The old man has already said that if the fake dragon-scale darts were broken, the old man would naturally pay you double." Mr. Hu flicked his sleeves and said casually, "Humph boy, now the result is out. Your dragon-scale darts have been broken. Are you convinced now? Now, it's time for you to lower your head and admit your mistake." Ouyang Yuan couldn't wait to slap Jiang Tian in the face. He flicked his sleeves and looked down at Jiang Tian condescendingly. At this time, someone suddenly looked at Mr. Hu and Ouyang Yuan sympathetically and said bitterly, "Senior, you seem to have made a mistake. The broken darts are the dragon-scale darts of the Treasure's Sea Tower." As soon as he said this, the whole place fell into a dead silence. Ouyang Yuan and Mr. Hu's expressions were very interesting. As if they had been struck by lightning, they were dumbfounded and completely petrified. Chapter 1377. Boom! The entire city square, and even the First Plate Mountain, was shaken. Every cultivator within a 100-kilometer radius was quickly spreading the news. A dragon-scale dart made by a blacksmith with the surname Jiang smashed the dart made by the Celestial Flame Grandmaster. What? How is that possible? It's true. Grandmaster Lin Qin presided over the supersonic collision and smashed the dragon-scale dart made by the Celestial Flame Grandmaster. That young master Jiang won. Doesn't this mean that his refining skills are better than the Celestial Flame Grandmaster? There's another blacksmith in the sect. More importantly, his refining fees are extremely low. Only twice the price of the materials. Let's go and take a look. In an instant, many cultivators were alarmed. Even the leaders of the major clans and sects on the 18 islands had all arrived. It could be said that the collision test that Elder Hu instigated caused Jiang Tian's reputation to instantly soar, causing him to shoot to fame. What? We've lost. Ouyang Yuan's head buzzed. He was so embarrassed that his face flushed red, as if he had been slapped countless times. This is a supreme-grade magical equipment made by the Celestial Flame Grandmaster himself. How could it be smashed? Elder Hu also could not believe it. He felt that his worldview had been turned upside down. But when he saw, many peerless cultivators on the islands appeared and tried to build a relationship with Jiang Tian, Elder Hu felt that something was wrong. This kid was going to rise up. His refining fees were so low and his speed was so fast. It would definitely affect the business of the Treasure Seafood Tower greatly. Moreover, once the news of his crafting skills spread, the Treasure Seafood Pavilion would be forced into a desperate situation. This kid can't be left alive. Elder Hu and Ouyang Yuan looked at each other and saw the cold, killing intent in each other's eyes. They had a tacit understanding. Is this young Master Jiang? I'm Qiu Zhe, the master of the 18 Islands and the forefather of the Qiu family. Greetings, Grandmaster Jiang. At this time, streaks of rainbows flew down from the top of the 18 Islands like supersonic fighter jets. The one in the front was an old man with white hair and white hair. He was dressed in luxurious clothes, and his danton was vibrating violently. His aura was like a dragon. He didn't bring just one person with him. He even brought many of the city's upper echelons and young talents from his family. Seeing him arrive, many cultivators revealed looks of fear. They all bowed respectfully and consciously opened up a path for him. We can't kill him. Too late. Even Elder Hu and Ouyang Yuan showed a respectful expression. They bowed respectfully and wailed in their hearts. The news had spread so quickly that even the Qiu family's old ancestor had come personally. But Qiu Zhe's insight was not inferior to his. It was like how a senior gourmet might be better than a chef in terms of evaluating dishes. Casting dragon scale darts is indeed a consummate artifact refinement technique. But look at the fragments. When they are heated, there are slight differences in the furnace temperature. The uneven heating causes the internal structure to be unstable. If the internal structure is unstable, what's the use of covering the outside with more dragon scales? This is not a problem with the Celestial Flame Sex artifact refinement technique. It's because he's too arrogant and careless that he made this flawed dart. As for Grandmaster Zhang's dart, Qiu Zhe revealed a look of deep admiration as he said loudly, "If I'm not wrong, it's the Nine Heavens artifact refinement technique that has been lost for thousands of years." Jiang Tian nodded slightly. That's right. It really is the Nine Heavens. Qiu Zhe was shocked. His eyes were dazed for a full 3 seconds before he came back to his senses and explained with a smile. This nail looks ordinary. It doesn't even have many dragon scales on it. However, there's a whole new world inside it. He said with deep emotion. The so-called Nine Heavens is to use 9 layers of hidden force to mix 9 layers of materials together. If this dart is split from the middle, you will definitely be able to see the 9 layers of structure from the inside to the outside, the 9 heavens. One layer supports the other. It's soft with hardness and soft with hardness. It can definitely compete with the dragon scale dart. Moreover, Grandmaster Jiang is even calmer when he's refining. He's neither arrogant nor impatient. The control of the fire and the temperature are perfect. This dart has uniform density, precise dimensions, and no flaws at all. It's a top-notch item. It can be called a peerless dart. But everyone was shocked as they listened to him in a daze. They didn't expect that not only was Jiang Tian's refining process cool, but the treasures he refined were also very particular. The Nine Heavens technique. This time, even Elder Hu was shocked. He looked at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at a god. His face was full of shock. Perhaps others didn't know, so they weren't that shocked. But he had seen the Nine Heavens technique in an ancient scroll before. That technique was many times more profound than casting dragon scales. At this moment, Jiang Tian's image in everyone's mind was many times higher. He could even compete with the Celestial Flame Grandmaster. Countless people wanted to curry favor with him. As for Elder Hu, he could just stand aside. He wasn't even qualified to carry Jiang Tian's shoes. Grandmaster Jiang, why don't you join our treasure sea tower? This old man will definitely meet the Tower Master, Fairy Lin Shirling, and the Celestial Flame Grandmaster in person. You will be greatly benefited. You are qualified to become the chief artifact refiner. Elder Hu couldn't hold it in anymore. He bowed respectfully and extended an olive branch. Only by including Jiang Tian in the Treasure Sea Tower would they have one less powerful opponent and one more powerful helper. Otherwise, as the instigators of this matter, he and Ouyang Yuan would be severely punished by the higher-ups. Chief Artifact Refiner. Today, Grandmaster Jiang can be said to have a meteoric rise, reaching the heavens in one step. Everyone was shocked and looked at Jiang Tian enviously. The Treasure Sea Tower was the second largest trading company in the entire Dragon Gate world. Their chief artifact refiner had a very high status, second only to Elder Celestial Flame. He was comparable to the island master of a medium-sized island and was qualified to talk to the state preceptor, Sun Bojun. How could everyone not be envious? Just as Jiang Tian was about to agree, suddenly, Xiao Zhe spoke. This old man is willing to invite Grandmaster Jiang to be the chief artifact refiner of the Qiu family. You can use 10 billion crystals every year and the materials in the Qiu family's treasury as you wish. This old man will be on the same level as you and call you brother. He will cultivate with you, verify each other's cultivation techniques, and climb the long path to immortality hand in hand. What do you think? Boom. Once this was said, everyone was shocked. Chapter 1378. It could be said that Xiao Zhe's offer was too generous. He was practically praising Jiang Tian to the heavens. Crystals and materials, these were secondary. Most importantly, they were brothers. That meant that Jiang Tian was like the second head of the family. In the entire 18 Disc Islands, he was second only to one person. The most ruthless point was that Xiao Zhe wanted to share cultivation techniques with Jiang Tian and cultivate together. This was equivalent to asking Jiang Tian to share the Qiu family's cultivation technique, which was equivalent to taking Jiang Tian as a disciple. However, he was also giving Jiang Tian face. He did not use the name of master and disciple to restrict Jiang Tian, but instead praised Jiang Tian to the heavens. Xiao Zhe was a veteran golden core cultivator, the patriarch of the Qiu family, the island master, and a grand perfected lord. Now that Jiang Tian had such a powerful backer, the benefits he could obtain were simply incalculable. Moreover, Xiao Zhe was also very smart. In everyone's opinion, Jiang Tian's cultivation should not be high. In fact, he was only at foundation establishment. What Xiao Zhe was offering was exactly what Jiang Tian lacked the most, to help him improve his cultivation. Old man, after reporting to the Tower Master, we can also offer the same conditions. Young Master Jiang, please give me some time. Old man whose face was covered in cold sweat. Although he was afraid of Xiao Zhe's power, he still sent a telepathic message unwillingly. Who Daddy, are you trying to steal him from me? However, his divine sense could not escape Xiao Zhe's detection. He immediately looked over coldly, and with a roar, his perfected lord aura erupted. There was no way old man who could withstand the aura of a golden core perfected lord. As if Mount Tai was pressing down on him, he bent his knees and knelt on the ground. His entire body trembled as he kowtowed repeatedly. City Lord, please calm down. I dare not. Everyone, Xiao Zhe, want this Grandmaster Jiang today. From now on, he can only forge artifacts for the Qiu family. No one else is allowed to touch him. Do you have any objections? Xiao Zhe snorted coldly. His domineering gaze swept over as he sent a telepathic message. The patriarchs, sect masters, and the leaders of the trading companies lowered their heads. Their eyes were filled with dread as they communicated with each other through their divine consciousness. We don't dare to compete. Everyone knew that Jiang Tian was a treasure. They all wanted to rope him in, but they did not dare to offend Xiao Zhe. Sigh, Xiao Zhe wants to imprison great craftsman Jiang. All the benefits I mentioned before, such as calling each other brothers, were all for outsiders to hear. At that time, the Qiu family will definitely squeeze this Grandmaster craftsman Jiang dry. In fact, he even wants to share his methods of refining artifacts with us. After all, he had just said that he wanted to communicate and learn from each other. He casually imparted a third-rate cultivation technique to you and then asked you about the method of refining weapons. Do you dare to refuse? A gentleman is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring gets him into trouble. Oh no! Oh no! It seems that in the world of cultivation, the strong are still respected. If you only have the means to refine weapons and your cultivation is low, you will still be crushed. At that moment, everyone suddenly came to a realization and could not help but feel some sympathy for Jiang Tian. Qiu Zhe did not think that Jiang Tian would dare to refuse. He casually cupped his fists at Jiang Tian and said unquestionably, "Great craftsman Jiang, please." "Perfected Lord Qiu, I'm an itinerant cultivator. I'm free and undisciplined like a wild crane. I can't stand being restrained. Forgive me for not being able to comply." Jiang Tian was neither servile nor overbearing. He was nonchalant. "What?" everyone exclaimed. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. They looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a dead man. He was only at the early stage of foundation establishment. In front of a golden core perfected lord, he was like an ant that could not withstand a single blow. What? Qiu Zhe was also stunned and surprised. "How dare you reject the Qiu family?" Suddenly, an early-stage golden core female cultivator stepped forward from behind Qiu Zhe. She had beautiful eyebrows and an ethereal aura. She was graceful and elegant. She was tall and slender, with curves in the front and back. She carried a long sword on her back and her beautiful eyes were full of power. She was full of valiance and murderous intent. Qiu Yinong, the eldest daughter of the Qiu family. Legend has it that she's not inferior to men. She successfully formed a golden core at the age of 30. Now, she's only 50 and she's already at the mid-stage golden core. Now, she's even under the tutelage of the ocean cover swordsman, Sun Bojun. In the future, she'll definitely control the 18 Pan Islands. She's as beautiful as a flower and is known as one of the top 10 beauties of Dragon Gate. She's even more famous than Xie Tingran. What a pity! She's ruthless and ruthless. She's one of the top 3 assassins under Sun Bojun. She's even killed some of the more experienced early-stage golden core cultivators. She's known as the Pan Island Witch. Many people clicked their tongues and communicated with the people around them using their divine consciousness. However, they all used a secret technique and did not dare to say it out loud. If the Qiu family heard it, they might be killed. "Why not?" Jiang Tian said casually and lazily. "I'm just an itinerant cultivator. I haven't received any benefits from your family and I'm not your slave. Do I need to listen to your orders? What kind of logic is that? You're courting death." Qiu Yinong's face turned cold. Her clear and beautiful eyes were filled with murderous intent that was not in harmony with her beauty. A flying sword moved by itself from the scabbard on her back and jumped up. Its cold light illuminated the void and sent chills down people's spines. It was about to fly towards Jiang Tian. This brat doesn't know his place. He's dead meat. Logic? In the world of cultivation, the strong are respected and the weak are ants. It's fair to bully the weak. His cultivation is not as good as hers and he still dares to disobey her orders. He can only be beheaded. What a pity! This young Master Jiang has reached the peak of refining, but he obviously hasn't experienced the world of cultivation. He doesn't know the cruelty of the world of cultivation. Everyone had different expressions. Some were mocking and disdainful, some were gloating, some were sighing regretfully, and some were watching the fire burn across the river with cold eyes. But very few people spoke up for Jiang Tian. Although there was order in the world of cultivation, order was only used to protect the strong. It was too common for the weak to be killed, enslaved, and trampled on. Good. This brat has been killed by the Qiu family. Our treasure seafood tower has one less strong competitor. Ouyang Yuan and Elder who looked at each other, revealing a gloating smile and snickering. Island Master Qiu, Miss Qiu, please spare him. At this moment, Lin Qin flew over and stopped in front of Jiang Tian. Sweating profusely, he bowed and cupped his fists, saying sincerely, Grandmaster Zhang's attainments in refining are extremely profound, and his methods are unfathomable. He alone can push the refining level of our entire world to an unprecedented height. It would be a pity to kill him. Whoever kills him will be a sinner of our world. What's there to pity about killing him? If he doesn't want to refine for the Chiu family, then he can't refine for others. We have to kill him. Chiu Yinong's eyes were cold. Ancestral Master Chiu, Miss Chiu, please give me some time. I'm willing to persuade him to refine for the Chiu family. Lin Qin truly admired Jiang Tian too much. He was shocked and didn't want Jiang Tian to die like this, dying an unnatural death. Chiu Zhe, who had been as calm as water, finally showed a smile. Lin Qin, I believe you. I'll give you 3 days. With Master Craftsman Zhang's wisdom, he will make a wise decision. Then he glared at Chiu Yinong and scolded, Yinong, you can't be too arbitrary and bully the weak. You're making a fool of yourself. Although the Chiu family is powerful, do we dare to call ourselves the #1 family of the Dragon Gate? If Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King came to bully you, how would you feel? Ancestral Master, I was wrong. Chiu Yinong quickly lowered her head and admitted her mistake. But in fact, she didn't admit her mistake at all. Her words were frivolous, and she rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian with disdain. All right. Master Craftsman Jiang, we'll take our leave first. We'll meet again. Chiu Zhe's expression was much colder. He cupped his hands and left with his family and subordinates. After the Chiu family left, many cultivators left Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian's stall became deserted. Ouyang Yuan and Elder who also shook their heads and flew into the seafood tower. In their minds, Jiang Tian was already a dead man. Even if he agreed to Chiu Zhe's request, he would only be a private blacksmith of the Chiu family and wouldn't compete with them. Lin Qin sighed. He walked up to Jiang Tian and said, Brother Jiang, this is reality. Your cultivation is too low and your connections are too shallow. You can only be trampled on. What do you think I should do? Jiang Tian didn't panic at all and asked with a smile. Go far away. Get to know other experts and get protection. You won't be able to survive in the 18 Disc Islands. Lin Qin smiled bitterly and shook his head. Jiang Tian smiled but didn't say anything. He could kill Chiu Zhe with one slash. He didn't even need to do anything. The true dragon by Zhe was enough to kill him. However, he came here to rescue Ao Jiao and kill top traders like Sun Bojun or the Jade Lake cultivators. To put it bluntly, Jiang Tian's target wasn't him at all. In other words, he wasn't even qualified for Jiang Tian to kill him. Chapter 1379. Lin Qin scanned Jiang Tian's body a few times with his divine sense. Suddenly, his face turned even uglier. You're finished. It's hard to run even if you want to, because he left a divine sense mark on you and can follow you all the way. Once you leave the island, he'll leave immediately. Brother Lin Qin, do you want to be their lobbyist? Jiang Tian took out a pot of Thunderfire wine and handed it over. Lin Qin didn't put on airs. He didn't look like a cultivator, but more like a blacksmith. He sat down cross-legged in the open space beside Jiang Tian, took a sip, and praised, Good wine. Brother, I won't hide it from you. It's too difficult for a blacksmith to survive in this world. In the end, the strong are respected. Blacksmithing is just making things easier for others. Lin Qin's eyes were filled with vicissitudes. My blacksmithing talent was revealed step by step. I kept making friends with the strong and gradually made a name for myself. In the end, I reached a certain balance where no cultivator would dare to provoke me. You're just too flashy. You revealed your blacksmithing talent and didn't make friends with the strong. That's why you were targeted by Chiu Zhe and couldn't do anything about it. If I'm not wrong, he's already sealed the news. The other island masters won't dare to snatch you. Besides, even if the news gets out, no one will dare to help you. Chiu Zhe is very strong, second only to Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King. He's the strongest among the sects and families on the 7 islands. But Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King won't stand up for you either. That's because they can get better spirit treasures and true weapons by working for the Jade Lake Billows world. They won't take you seriously. Brother, you're basically dead. So you're saying that I can only blacksmith for Chiu Zhe and even be imprisoned by them? Jiang Tian laughed. Unless you can forge a true weapon, or even a supreme grade one. That way, Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King will take a liking to you and make you work for them. Lin Qin said helplessly. But you still can't avoid the fate of making things easier for others. It's just that you'll have more freedom. I can forge a true weapon? Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Oh my god, you're so powerful. Lin Qin's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He stared at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at a monster. In the Dragon Gate world, no one has refined a true treasure for thousands of years. Even in history, no one had been able to do it. Refining a true artifact that was no longer the level of a grandmaster craftsman, but the legendary heavenly blacksmith. He hurriedly said, if that's the case, I can bring you to meet the Giant Shark King or Sun Bojun. However, it might take some time. Jiang Tian understood. Even if Lin Qin was a famous craftsman in this world, he might be able to talk to Sun Bojun and the others. However, Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King no longer cared about them. After all, Hai Lan and Jade Lake's refining culture was more advanced, so they could be rewarded. Moreover, these two people were extremely cautious and their whereabouts were secretive. They wouldn't easily reveal themselves. Even if Lin Qin wanted to recommend him, it wouldn't be that easy. The experts you're talking about are nothing more than a matter of me blowing them up with one punch. Still, thank you, Grandmaster Lin. Even so, Jiang Tian still cupped his hands and thanked Lin Qin. Lin Qin was a kind person who didn't care about fame and fortune. In the cultivation world, people like him were as rare as pandas. I don't dare to call myself a grandmaster in front of you. If you don't mind, you can call me Brother Lin. Lin Qin said. Since you don't have any business, you can stay in my building for the next few days. During this time, I'll find someone to contact the Giant Shark King and the others. Also, I can talk to City Lord Qiu and see if there's any hope that he won't imprison you. Jiang Tian nodded and followed Lin Qin to a courtyard on the First Plate Mountain and settled down. Brother Lin, do you know about the furnace auction that will be held at the Seaview Pavilion in a few days? Jiang Tian said with a smile. How do you know about the auction? Lin Qin was shocked. Wasn't Jiang Tian an itinerant cultivator? Moreover, his cultivation wasn't very high. The invitation to the furnace auction wasn't sent out casually. It was only sent to cultivators above the Golden Core realm. In fact, it was only invited to important figures such as the sect masters, family lords, city lords, and island lords. The news was extremely secretive. Even Sun Bojun requested that it not be spread. Otherwise, they would be killed. Because the furnace auctioned were all descendants of the Ao family or nobles. If the royal family tried to rescue them, it would be chaotic. I found out by chance. Jiang Tian smiled. I like refining, so I naturally want to buy some materials. I heard that it's a good place. Before this, I just wanted to earn money to get an entrance ticket. You're wrong. Lin Qin smiled bitterly. The entrance ticket to the Seaview Pavilion is indeed expensive. It's at least 1 billion crystal stones. But even if you get an entrance ticket, it doesn't mean you can participate in the furnace auction. The furnace auction is an invitation from a hero. Even my building of craftsmanship only received one invitation. He smiled and said, why don't you go in with my invitation? You just need to buy a few treasures for me. Jiang Tian shook his head and said, a gentleman doesn't take advantage of others. When the time comes, we'll go in together. I'll find a way to get an invitation. Okay, then you should rest first. You must have used a lot of energy today. I'll go talk to the Qiu family's patriarch Qiu Zhe. Lin Qin cupped his fists and got up to leave. I'm afraid it's useless. Jiang Tian smiled bitterly but didn't stop him. He nodded slightly and sat cross-legged in the room. About an hour later, a white essence chi hand suddenly descended from the sky and grabbed Jiang Tian like an eagle grabbing a chick. The true dragon patriarch was about to attack when Jiang Tian said, don't worry, I'd like to see who's attacking me. As the giant hand dragged him, the scenery in front of Jiang Tian changed rapidly. He traveled 100 miles in an instant and soon landed on an unknown island. Qiu Zhe greets Grandmaster Jiang. The Qiu family's patriarch walked out slowly. Behind him were several golden core overlords, each of whom was extremely powerful. The most eye-catching one was an unusually tall old man carrying a giant red gourd on his back. The old man's hair and beard were red. His dantian was rumbling and his red golden core was jumping. Fire like true essence surrounded his body and he was like a giant furnace. He obviously practiced a fire-type cultivation technique and his golden core had reached the phenomenal success stage. His cultivation was close to that of a nascent soul cultivator. Except for the golden core overlords. There were dozens of foundation establishment cultivators next to him. They were all wearing black iron armor and holding heavy swords. They were the Qiu family's private soldiers and the top overlords among the guards of the 18 islands. Qiu Zhe, what are you doing? Jiang Tian remained calm. I'm here for your artifact forging skills, of course. Qiu Zhe cracked a smile and said, You're just a foundation establishment cultivator. You can't monopolize such a powerful artifact forging divine power. I have to make it public to benefit the thousands of cultivators in the Dragon Gate world. I've invited Grandmaster Chenyan here to discuss artifact forging with you and see if what you've learned is real or not. I'm Chenyan. I've heard a lot about you. Nice to meet you, fellow cultivator. The old man with the giant red gourd on his back smiled maliciously. What if I don't? Jiang Tian smiled. That's easy. Qiu Zhe raised his hand and pointed at an old man beside him with a gaze as sharp as lightning. He smiled and said, That's right. This is the sect master of the divine refining sect, Han Qin, perfected cultivator Han. He specializes in soul energy and has the strongest divine soul among the thousands of sects on the 7 islands. He's the best at soul searching. Do you think you can hide it? Chapter 1380. Qiu Zhe smiled menacingly. Perfected cultivator Han might only be ranked in the top 10 in this world in terms of overall combat power, but in terms of divine sense, even the giant shark king Sun Bojun would have to admit defeat. If you don't tell me, perfected cultivator Han will use a soul-searching technique to find out all your refining techniques. City Lord Qiu, you're too kind. Han Chen, who was wearing a green Daoist robe, cupped his hands and said sinisterly, To tell you the truth, the old man's soul-searching technique is extremely crude. If he's not careful, he'll make people go crazy and do things incorrectly, worse than pigs and dogs, and even destroy their souls. So, fellow Daoist Jiang, why don't you hand over all your refining techniques so that you won't have to suffer and the old man won't have to do it? Qiu Zhe, you want to rob me? Jiang Tian laughed. And you're quite well prepared. Someone will verify the authenticity and someone will search the soul. I thought that Qiu Yinong was quite ruthless, but who knew that you're even more vicious and hypocritical than him? No wonder. As the saying goes, if the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. I also considered imprisoning you and coercing you into refining for the Qiu family, but after thinking about it, I don't think it's appropriate. Qiu Zhe smiled. You're too good at refining. Even the Celestial Flame Grandmaster isn't as good as you. One day, you'll shake the entire Dragon Gate. If I keep you in the Qiu family, other families and sects might covet you. It'll be endless trouble for me. The best way is for us to learn your refining skills ourselves. That way, you'll be free and we won't have any trouble. Qiu Zhe, there's nothing wrong with your plan. Jiang Tian suddenly smiled. But do you really think I'm that stupid? If I don't have the ability to protect myself, would I dare to reveal my refining skills so easily? Aren't you a foundation establishment cultivator? You're a golden core. Everyone was shocked. They suddenly understood, but it was already too late. A golden core is like an ant in my eyes. Jiang Tian took a step forward. Boom. The small island within a radius of 10 miles shook violently. An extremely vicious and fierce energy rose from Jiang Tian's body. A peak stage foundation establishment cultivator, a golden core cultivator, a nascent soul cultivator, or even higher. It seemed to be endless, filling the sky in a blink. At this moment, he was like a primordial tyrannosaurus that had awakened. An incomparably terrifying pressure was released from his body. Bang bang bang. Almost in the blink of an eye, the Chiu family's private soldiers and island guards couldn't withstand the violent pressure and exploded. Pieces of armor and weapons flew everywhere, and crystal-clear flesh rained down. Only a handful of cultivators at the peak of the late stage of the Foundation establishment stage could barely hold on, but they were already kneeling on the ground, trembling all over. Oh my God! What kind of monster did I provoke? How was this a weakling? What Foundation establishment? This was clearly a nascent soul stage old monster. He's definitely not someone I can match. Chiu Zhe screamed in his heart. Chiu Zhe, you've misled me. This strength is probably 10 times more terrifying than Sun Bojun and the giant Shark King. The two perfected cultivators, Han Qin and Elder Flame, were also frightened. Jiang Tian's energy was too terrifying. It wasn't something they could withstand. Senior, this is a misunderstanding. Chiu Zhe had no intention of resisting at all. He only wanted to beg for mercy, but Jiang Tian wasn't going to be merciful. Jiang Tian waved his fingers, and a blade swept out like a knife cutting water, directly cutting Chiu Zhe in half. Then he raised his hand and took the bloodied golden core, putting it into the sky-devouring demon gourd. Now his golden core divine disc had already spun once. The gung metal divine body had evolved into the gung metal immortal body, and the gung metal golden core had formed the nascent soul. The gung metal brand on the divine disc had reached the level of condensing laws. Jiang Tian's divine disc spun, which was equivalent to a golden core evolving to the limit and forming a nascent soul. Coupled with the power of the divine body, even a nascent soul heavenly lord wouldn't be able to withstand one slash, let alone a late-stage golden core cultivator. Senior, the old man was also forced. If the old man didn't come, he would have been killed by Chiu Zhe and the entire treasure seafood tower. Seeing this, perfected cultivator Morning Flame was so frightened that his body trembled. He couldn't help but kneel down, sweating profusely. Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to his words and clapped his hands. A millstone-like gung metal palm condensed in the air as if it were made of divine gold. It was heavier than a 10,000-foot mountain, crushing everything in its path. Master Celestial Flame roared. His dantian rumbled and trembled. His golden core burned crazily. The red gourd jumped up and shot out endless flames. It burned the sky and wanted to melt Jiang Tian's golden gung palm. His red gourd also contained a kind of heavenly flame called the star flame. It was one of the 12 types of heavenly flames and was very famous. The fire was formed when the heavenly fire star fell. It was extremely hot and could destroy all Dharma treasures. It could be used to make pills, forge artifacts, or attack Dharma artifacts. With this fire seed, the Celestial Flame Grandmaster was able to gain great fame in this world, standing tall for hundreds of years without falling. But then, it was useless against the gung metal palm. Crack! Grandmaster Morning Flame was smashed into a pulp before he could even let out a cry. Even his golden core was shattered and his divine soul was turned into ashes. Jiang Tian didn't even need to use a second attack to deal with such a normal golden core cultivator. He could kill him with a breath. However, the fire in the red gourd didn't go out. It was still burning fiercely, twisting the air around and melting the rocks into lava. Although it's not as good as the Red Sparrow True Fire, it's not bad. It can be used as food for the Red Sparrow Golden Core cultivators. Don't waste it. Take it. Jiang Tian raised his hand and grabbed the red gourd. He instantly erased the divine soul that had recognized him as its master. Then he cast a spell and sucked in the many stars and flames. Mr. Jiang Tian, please don't kill us. We're sorry. The other Golden Core cultivators almost cried. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed. They didn't even have the courage to run away. They couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's level, but Jiang Tian killed the peak stage Golden Core Grand Perfected Cultivator Jiang Tian as if he were an ant. So, Jiang Tian was a nascent soul heavenly lord. Run! Only Han Chen, who was scared out of his wits, thought that there was an opportunity for him to take advantage of when he saw Jiang Tian pack up the treasures. He used his movement technique and fled. The golden core perfected cultivators were extremely powerful. They were faster than supersonic planes. In the blink of an eye, he was already 100 miles away and was not far away from the 18 islands. He would be much safer once he reached the islands. He had carefully set up a few hiding spots that could hide him from the immortal will of a nascent soul heavenly lord. Oh my God, I was scared to death. I thought this was a good deal. Who knew that a foundation establishment cultivator would be a nascent soul cultivator? As he ran, he howled miserably in his heart, complaining incessantly. A few golden core cultivators dealing with a foundation establishment cultivator was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. Besides, Qiu Zhe always had a good eye. He had never thought that he would be wrong. Besides, this guy was too powerful. He could kill golden core cultivators as easily as cutting grass. Did I say you could go? Suddenly, a cold voice sounded in front of him. Jiang Tian appeared like a ghost and blocked his way. Senior, please let me live. I know I was wrong. I'm willing to be your servant for the rest of my life to atone for offending a heavenly lord. Han Chen was aghast and turned pale with fright. There were a few golden core perfected cultivators on the island. He thought they could hold on for a while, but they couldn't even stop a few seconds. This guy was extremely powerful. Didn't you want to search my soul just now? Don't be shy. Come on. Jiang Tian waved his folding fan and said mockingly, "You forced me to do this." Realizing that Jiang Tian wasn't going to let him go, Han Chen unleashed his immortal will, which turned into a sharp golden sword and attacked Jiang Tian's mind. His divine sense had already transcended the illusory and turned into reality. It was like refined steel that had been tempered 100 times. It was extremely condensed and sharp, and all physical and magical barriers were useless against it. His soul energy attack was unparalleled in the entire dragon sect and was as powerful as a nascent soul heavenly lord. He knew that even if he wasn't as strong as Jiang Tian in terms of overall strength, he might not lose if he attacked the latter's weakness with his strengths. Not bad for a golden core to be able to materialize your immortal will. However, you're way too weak compared to my immortal will. Jiang Tian revealed a mocking smile as he unleashed his soul-devouring spiritual sense. Boom! Soul devourers surged out of Jiang Tian's forehead like black tentacles. In an instant, they formed a soul-devourer demon god with 9 horns on its head, bone spikes on its body, and 9 demon heads on its back. The immortal will soul-devouring fiend celestial was as tall as a mountain and its mouth was filled with white teeth. Fiend chi surged and its eyes were arrogant, filled with a cruel, vicious, and terrifying aura. Without saying anything, it reached out with its scaly hands and grabbed the golden immortal will sword. What is this immortal will? Han Chen looked up at the immortal will soul-devouring fiend celestial that was 1,000 feet tall. He was so shocked that he even forgot to resist. Chapter 1381. Perfected cultivator Han Chen had never seen such a vast, violent, and powerful immortal will. Not even the immortal will of a nascent soul heavenly lord could reach such a level. Crack! Han Chen's golden immortal will was crushed by the soul-devouring fiend god like a piece of paper. The moment it was crushed, it turned into pure soul energy and was absorbed by the soul-devouring fiend god, becoming an inseparable part of it. Senior, please give me a chance. Han Chen screamed and wanted to beg for mercy. But Jiang Tian ignored him. Then, the soul-devouring fiend god opened its mouth and absorbed all of Han Chen's immortal will, divine soul and other soul energy. Blood spurted out of Han Chen's 7 orifices like arrows and his body twitched violently. Then, his eyes turned white and his pupils dilated rapidly. In the end, he lost all signs of life and fell to the ground, turning into a stiff corpse. After taking out Han Chen's golden core, Jiang Tian looked in the direction of the 18 islands coldly. I originally planned to kill Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King and defeat the cultivators of the Jade Pool and Hai Lan world before settling the score with the traitors of the Dragon Sect. But you're actually so reckless, jumping out to court death. Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. Kill all of you and take down the 18 islands. By then, none of Sun Bojun's actions will be able to escape my eyes. Jiang Tian's figure flickered, and he disappeared from where he stood, flying towards the 18 islands. He was going to start a massacre. In the Chiu family's mansion on the 18th island of the 18 islands. The mansion was 1,000 acres large and it was located on a mountain overlooking the entire 18 islands. A waterfall cascaded down around the mansion like a waterfall. Spiritual energy permeated the air like clouds and mist. Cranes soared among the clouds. Strange beasts at the building foundation stage resided in the water like adorable pets, occasionally revealing their extraordinary appearances. There were many tall palaces and giant trees in the mansion. There were also 9 winding corridors, carved beams and painted rafters. It was extremely luxurious and exquisite. Giant stone beasts about 30 meters tall lined up on both sides of the door. There were griffins, red ho, xiongqi, tiger dragons, lili. All of them looked ferocious and mighty. Above the mansion, numerous foundation establishment cultivators with powerful auras stood in the air, scanning their surroundings with vigilant gazes. Around the courtyard, there was a sentry every 5 steps, and a sentry every 10 steps. Every one of them had a vigorous aura, wore black heavy armor, and held long spears and sharp blades in their hands as they stood solemnly. All of this supported the Island Master's mansion with a vigorous aura and unparalleled might. At this moment, the Chiu family's upper echelons, the Oceanic Treasure House, the Divine Refining Sect, and the other families that were participating in the war were all gathered in a meeting hall. Jiang Tian had appeared out of nowhere and his origins were unknown. It was said that he was a cultivator who had come from the lower realms to seek refuge. But the Chiu family was still very cautious. In this operation against Jiang Tian, several of the great families and sects on the island had participated to ensure that nothing would go wrong. If they could get their hands on Jiang Tian's refining techniques, all the participating forces would be able to get a share of the profits and make a fortune. This wasn't a one-time deal, nor was it as simple as making a huge profit. Instead, it was something that could be used for generations to come. The Pan-Island demoness, Chiu Yinong, who was dressed in black, sipped her fragrant tea and sat at the head of the table. Around her, the head of the Oceanic Treasure House, Lin Shiling, the Zongzi of the Divine Refining Sect, and the others were all jubilant as they waited for the good news. Below them, only Lin Qin lowered his arrogant head and kowtowed to the ground, begging with tears in his eyes. "Miss Chiu, please be merciful and spare Grandmaster Zhang's life. I will definitely convince him to refine for you for free for 10 years. If he had agreed in the market, the Chiu family wouldn't have killed him. Now, it's too late for him to agree," Chiu Yinong said with disdain. A mere foundation establishment cultivator is as weak as an ant. In this chaotic world, it's hard for him to even protect himself. The fact that the Chiu family is willing to take him in and protect him is his good fortune. How dare he refuse in front of everyone? Isn't he courting death? He's just a mere foundation establishment cultivator. I can crush him with my bare hands. How dare he provoke the Oceanic Treasure House and City Lord Chiu? He deserves to die. The head of the Oceanic Treasure House, Lin Shiling, was a middle-aged woman in a palace dress. She snorted and said with disdain. This woman was gorgeous. Her skin was as smooth as jade, her waist was slender, and her breasts were bouncing up and down. She had a seductive figure and a pair of peach blossom eyes. No man, unless they were eunuchs, would be able to resist her fatal temptation. In fact, this woman was indeed famous in the Dragon Gate world. She was like a social butterfly. She was born seductive and was proficient in dual cultivation. Any man who dual cultivated with her would be completely conquered by her. It was said that even true monarch Cinderflame had prostrated himself before her and was willing to serve her. Even the state preceptor, Sun Bojun, had an affair with her. Otherwise, his Seaview Pavilion would have destroyed the oceanic treasure house. More importantly, she was also a cultivator who had reached the early Golden Core realm. She could already be called a perfected lord. Lin Qin, stop talking nonsense. Otherwise, I'll kill you too. The junior sect master of the divine refining sect, Han Sen, looked down at Lin Qin as if he was looking at an ant. That Jiang guy is just an ant. It doesn't matter if we kill him. His refining skills won't be lost. Instead, they will be developed in our hands. What's there to be sad about? Han Sen is right. Just as the important figures of the 18 islands were laughing out loud and Lin Qin was grieving, Lin Qin was laughing out loud. Clang. An earth-shattering explosion came from outside the mansion, accompanied by many screams and exclamations. What's going on? Everyone was shocked. Just as they were about to go outside to check, a sound like a dragon's roar pierced through the air. It rushed from outside the mansion to the meeting hall. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at the entrance of the hall. Bang! The gate, which was more than 20 centimeters thick and made of bronze and engraved with many runes, was kicked apart like paper. In the billowing dust and flying debris, a young man with black hair and black eyes walked in with his hands behind his back. He was holding a perfected foundation establishment cultivator in his hand like an eagle catching a chick. It was the leader of the Chiu family's consecrators. The leader of the Chiu family's consecrators had rich battle experience and could fight above his level. In terms of combat power, he was no weaker than a Golden Core perfected lord. Now, he was being held in Jiang Tian's hand like a dead dog. With a shake of his arm, he turned into a mist of blood. Jiang Gai, you're not dead. Where's my ancestral patriarch? Everyone had different reactions. Many cultivators looked at Jiang Tian as if they had seen a ghost. Qiu Zhe had brought a few Golden Core cultivators to capture him and interrogate him. Why was he in the Qiu family's mansion? Moreover, his aura was earth-shattering as he walked over. Even the entire mansion was shaking violently as if it was about to collapse. Although they could not see his specific cultivation level, it was definitely not to be underestimated. Qiu Yinong had a bad feeling in his heart. His face darkened as he stood up and stared at Jiang Tian warily. What's wrong? Are you surprised that I wasn't killed by Qiu Zhe? Are you unhappy? Jiang Tian said with a smile as he walked over with his hands behind his back. What nonsense are you talking about? How could my ancestral patriarch be dead? One of the Qiu family's upper echelons stood up, pointed at Jiang Tian and shouted angrily, "Surnamed Jiang, stop right there. This is the Island Master's mansion, which rules over the entire 18 Disc Islands. It's not a place where you can behave atrociously. Is there a place in this world where I don't dare to behave atrociously?" Jiang Tian sneered, not showing any mercy as he flicked his finger. A golden finger beam pierced through the person's skull, bringing with it a mist of blood and brain matter, killing him on the spot. Deputy Family Head Qiu. Everyone was shocked and furious. Although the deputy family head of the Qiu family's cultivation level was not the top, he was at the early stage Golden Core and had many protective Dharma artifacts on him. However, he could not even block Jiang Tian's finger. This kid was not at the foundation establishment level. He was clearly a Golden Core perfected cultivator. Seeing Jiang Tian's killing spree, the family head of the Qiu family stood up with a furious expression and questioned coldly. "Jiang, how dare you? The Qiu family has more than 10 Golden Core perfected cultivators under us. We have dominated the 18 Disc Islands for hundreds of years and can mobilize 100 Golden Core perfected cultivators. Our prodigy, Qiu Yinong, is the personal disciple of the state preceptor, Sun Bojun. Even if you're not afraid of the Qiu family, the state preceptor has already reached the nascent soul level and is known as a heavenly lord. Do you really want to be enemies with the Qiu family even if you have to offend Sun Bojun?" Noisy! Jiang Tian slapped down and smashed the family head of the Qiu family into meat paste. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.